Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our City Council meeting, our regular City Council meeting on Monday, November 25th. For public participation, there are three ways to submit public comments. Submit written comments by the meeting day or submit written comments during the meeting. And third, attend the meeting in person. To submit written comments by the meeting day, please email cityclerk@dalycity.org and include public comment in the subject line. All written comments received by 4 p.m. on the meeting day will be provided to the City Council prior to the meeting. Please note any emailed comments received after 4 p.m. on the meeting date are not guaranteed to be received by the City Council prior to the meeting. Comments are not read aloud into the record. 2, during the meeting, you may visit www.dalycity.org/agendas to submit comments using the public comment form to address the City Council on a specific item or during the public comment period, and such comments are delivered to the City Council and staff during the meeting and may be read into the record at the time they are received. 3, to speak at the meeting in person, please complete a speaker card located at the entrance to the council chamber and submit it to staff member as early in the meeting as possible. May we all rise for the pledge of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Present.
Dr. Rod,
Present.
Ms. Perano,
Present.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, present.
Ms. Manalo.
Present. Thank you very much. First on our agenda today, we have a proclamation to Holy Angels 5th grade volleyball team. Winning a championship is no small feat, and it's really wonderful to see each and every one of you here today. I remember hearing that you were all undefeated and that you needed just a couple more games or one more game to have your championship. And I just want to say you should all be very proud of yourself. You know, winning a championship is not easy, and you all did it. And so we're here to honor you with a proclamation to the Holy Angels 5th grade volleyball team. Whereas under the dedicated guidance of their coaches, Jamie Lynn Bagmanua and Elsie Campos, the Holy Angels 5th grade volleyball team embarked on a journey defined by passion, teamwork, and perseverance, developing their skills and strategies with unwavering determination. Whereas the spirited team of 8 players began their season with a commitment to excellence, competing fiercely in thrilling matches and achieving an undefeated record of 8-0 during the regular season, a testament to their resilience and bond. Whereas despite an unexpected mid-playoff division change by the CYO administration that elevated them to a higher level of competition, the Holy Angels 5th grade volleyball team faced the challenge with resolve, defeating formidable opponents including St. Cecilia and top-seeded St. John Eagles in consecutive playoff victories. And whereas on November 16, 2024, in an electric atmosphere filled with the cheers of their community, Holy Angels 5th grade volleyball team showcased their incredible growth and athleticism, defeating the St. Thomas More Broncos in 2 decisive sets, 25-12 and 25-11, to claim the CYO Division 4th championship title. And this is where we get to hear the amazing players. Whereas the players Julian Tumbaga, number 25, Reese Ruelos, number 11, Camila Campos, number 22, Dylan Bonilla, number 10. Jaden Meneses Rojas, number 26. Rilin Villar, number 27. Samantha Vega, number 24. And Cameron Tabalno, number 8. They embody the spirit of teamwork, perseverance, and excellence, serving an inspiration to their peers and community. Now, therefore, I, Jocelyn C. Manalo, Mayor of the Daly City and members of the City Council, hereby proclaim and sincerely congratulate and commend the Holy Angels 5th grade volleyball team for their extraordinary accomplishments and their CYO Division IV championship victory. We celebrate your hard work, dedication, and pride that they bring to our community. Please come up. That is for your whole team. Stick couples. Here you go. This is for you. And this is Jamie Kwatman. And also for Juliet Tumbaga. Reese Ruelos. We have Cameron Tabalno. And Samantha Vega. Wow, this team is amazing. Undefeated. Percentage or whatnot. Relin Millar.
Let's go, Ryan!
Camila Campos. Dylan Bonilla. And Jaden.
I don't know, probably yeah. Oh shoot. Which one are we gonna stare at? Mr. Bonilla. Okay.
Go team!
I'll keep in charge.
Job, Mom.
We cannot follow anyone.
Thank you.
Any of the coaches want?
Oh, I wasn't ready, but first and foremost, I would like to extend my gratitude to everyone, parents, family, the girls especially, Mayor, City of Daly City. This is such an incredible opportunity. The girls have worked so hard. As you can tell, we went undefeated. And I'm so proud of you guys. You do not understand the magnitude of this yet, but you will as you get older. And we, just like I say, keep going, keep growing, keep progressing. And just a huge thank you for all your support and just all the, everything. You guys are there. My couldn't have done it without you. Again, thank you. This is incredible. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yes. Again, congratulations. Sports played a huge influence in my life. When I was also in 5th grade, I played basketball. And I remember when I was a kid, we won a championship as well. And when we think about these things that happen in your experiences and at your life, 5th grade, these are like building blocks and skills and foundational experiences that you'll take through the rest of your life, right? So building teamwork, trust amongst your whole team, and all of y'all, you're going to be bonded by this experience for the rest of your life. So some of y'all, this will be like your best friends from now till forever, and you'll have this experience from the city council experience to winning this going undefeated, is something that you'll have in your memories for the rest of your life. So congratulations.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to acknowledge the parents that are in the audience and the teachers that are here as well. I know it was through a conversation we had at the Harvest Festival dinner, hearing the amazing where you all were at with Erwin, who mentioned where they were at and was like, I said, what? They aren't champions. They're almost there. I said, wow, they're going to make it. And you all did. And so I just want to acknowledge all of those that have supported the young people here that are here. This whole room is filled because you are loved. And like Vice Mayor mentioned, this moment is going to be a moment for you when you look back on. And as we say, as we are older, we're looking back at times that really shaped who we are, and know that you are definitely have the tenacity and the mindset to be able to work on a team and to be able to really show your tenacity. And so that's what sports does. And it's also so amazing to see women athletes here in the audience. And that is really kudos to show that, that empowerment and that female really being able to show that athleticism goes all the way around, right? And so thank you so much.
It's an honor to see all of you here. My children also attended Holy Angels, and my daughter played volleyball. And what I can remember is and a lot of what Dr. Rod said is totally true. Your friends here will carry you right through high school and into your adulthood. So I would like to say to each of the girls that how proud I am of each of you, because it takes a team. And that's kind of what we do up here. We're kind of team players here. And as Councilmember Glenn has said before, there's no I in team. And
Took the words out
so,
of my mouth.
oh, yes, sir. And I would like to also say congratulations to the parents, because it's our memories, right? We're here and it's our memories, and it's what we watch our children grow. And so I want to congratulate the two coaches, all the parents, and especially the young ladies who work so hard. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I said it when I was earlier tonight. You've got something that the Warriors don't have. You're undefeated. Baby Steph, if you're listening, don't recruit the coach because they need them, but these girls got game. So I'm just saying, we don't know what's going to happen, but we got our own Warriors right here at Holy Angels, and we got a female team, no gender divide, and they just showed up. They did it, did the hard work, and I want to repeat what they say. I played volleyball. I didn't really do undefeated, but I can tell you just that experience. I'm still in touch with my friends, like Dr. Rod said, and it bonds like no other game. Like all sports is so great, and I hear you might be moving on to the next championship in another arena, and we'll see you back here, because it doesn't stop here. It just proves what hard work does. With hard work, you can achieve your dreams. You can achieve your goals. It takes a lot of focus. It takes with the coach, the supporting parents, teachers. I know that school, when you go to any of those events, it is a big community that is bonded. And, like people that have gone and graduated, and they still come back, right? Because that bond at that school, and we all know the center of it is always God, right? That is the bonding foundation for anything, to do anything in your life. And I know how spiritual, how good it is to be there, and the surrounding community. And then, you come back here anytime you want. So proud of each of you ladies. I say young ladies because, boy, you're going up to 6th grade now. Oh my goodness gracious. Before you know it, you'll be grown women playing at who knows what sport. But, or even no matter if you do whatever you do in sports, whatever you do, you can achieve it. And I can guarantee you that. And to that coach, I know I can see how proud you are, and the parents, teachers, and all of Holy Angels, because there was a big buzz at the fair yesterday. I was like, oh, I hear that about championship and all the tables where you go around. Yeah, you guys are true champions inside and out, and you'll carry it with you forever. So proud you're here. So humble you have graced us tonight. Truly, you are giving us a big treat tonight by being here. And you think it's a treat for you, but it's a treat for myself, and I'm sure the rest of my colleagues, by all of you being here. So humble, so grateful, and keep going. Just keep going.
Councilmember Sylvester?
Excuse me. Thank you very much. I want to take this time to acknowledge everyone involved, especially the young ladies, and for what you've accomplished. I leave you, in reading the proclamation, I leave you with this one saying that came to mind as I was reading it. Against all odds. And you did it. To the parents, I'm a firm believer that the first line of defense begins at home. The second line of defense is where? The schools. So parents, thank you so much for sharing your child and taking part in their accomplishments to get them where they are today. Next, I would like to thank the staff. I see staff members here from Holy Angels. You folks also play an important role with the parents. And to the coach, Chiz. When I think of coach, I think of two aspects to the word coach. Coach, what's the meaning of coach? A coach, he or she is concerned about the results. But you have, and what I can feel today, something a little bit more different. And the other term is mentor. And mentor is concerned about the future and always being there. So the coach, you have the results, but I think you are also mentors for these young ladies. So again, congratulations. Thank you all. Job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. You definitely all brightened our city council meeting this evening. It's such a great start to see all the amazing young faces here, as well as the whole community that surrounds you. So once again, congratulations. I know you all have to do homework. Oh wait, you don't. It's Thanksgiving break. But once again, congratulations to everyone. Thank you. Moving on to item number 2, special meeting of November 12, 2024. Do I have approval of the minutes? Move to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Move to approve the regular meeting of November 25.
So move.
Second.
Okay, first and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. Now moving on to oral comment. Do we have public comments at this time? And we do. May we please call up Renee Ananda. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Just so you know who I am, I'm a resident that lives on Southgate Avenue between El Dorado and St. Francis Boulevard, directly across the street from the new construction that's going on for Seafood City. I know it's somewhat late in the game to actually come out with what I would consider substantive changes, but I felt it's important to convey my concerns. The facade that faces our house has visual effects that are pretty negative. And I want to know that there's going to be some kind of measures to mitigate the visual impact of that. It's like we open our window and we're looking out on a wall that looks, unfortunately, like a prison. So I just want to have the city council maybe discuss that with planning or whomever, the developer, to see what they're going to do to mitigate the impact of that. I am concerned about the height. It's pretty monstrous. What was there before was not as intrusive. The height was, we could handle it. And also they allowed for more distance between the sidewalk and the public walkway. They had the parking lot and then the actual grocery store. But now they built that structure right up to almost to the sidewalk. And I'm concerned about that as well as, the visual effect. At this point, maybe they can do something to relieve some of that. They progressed in the development. It's there. I know you can't tell them to go chop it down at this point, although I wouldn't mind if you did. But again, they need to do something with the face of that building. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Just to let you know, we can't really respond to public comment.
No, I understand.
But what we'll be able to do is respond to you afterwards
I
in
understand.
regards to your comment.
Yes,
Just leave-
I know the
okay.
process.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yelena Barrer.
Good evening. My name is Elena. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Relena, is that
Elena, yeah. My name is Elena, and I'm a resident at the Zeta Manor Street, not far from here, off of the Eastmore. And I'm here today to request, along with a few other neighbors, that there'd be a stop sign in front of the entrance to our street, because without a stop sign, pedestrians are unable to cross the street safely, walk normally. So whenever we go for walks, it's impossible to actually walk there. It's not safe. Driving is also impossible, making a left turn. Whenever, especially it's a sunny days, it's impossible to make that left turn because of the visibility, because the street is a little bit sort of like crooked, I guess, if you will. But, this basically creates an unsafe environment for everyone. There's a huge risk for accidents, okay? And I've seen many times while trying to cross the street with my kids how unsafe it is, okay? People are speeding there. So I've had to multiple times hold my 7-year-old tightly so that no one can actually hit us while we're crossing the street. So again, we're here to request that there be a stop sign there. Thank you.
Thank you. Marianne Seki.
Good evening, City Council. I've been here 4 or 5 times over the past few years. I recognize some of you. I'm trying to hold my anger back because I've been requesting this 4-way stop sign for years. And it is the traffic, and I was told once by a prior city manager, no one has died, and I was insulted that one of us has to die before you would consider a 4-way stop sign. Oh, you would impede the flow of traffic? So that means, there's 3 prior stop signs before you hit our intersection. So that would impede the flow of the traffic. Yesterday, my husband and I almost got hit because once you pass the school, that last stop sign, if a car is making a left turn, this car can just go around that car and shoot across because there's no stop sign. It's almost an invitation to speed up so you can get up the hill to get up to the high school. So my concern, prior to the last 4 or 5 meetings, even petitioning and filing a petition from all our neighbors, there's been a change in the traffic because NEMS, Northeast Medical Center, now has added a huge addition to the building. It is open Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5. That has now increased the flow of traffic, increased the hours, the pedestrians. I've seen patients almost get hit crossing that street. Also, Pauline Brown Elementary School gave up their playground, and now they have a wonderful community for teachers and classified staff. That's 57 housing increase of cars. So that's another reason for more traffic throughout that one Eastmore traffic. You definitely need to reinvestigate that flow of traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Raja Kawas?
All right, start the clock. I'm another neighbor on Zeta Manor. So we're talking about, I'm sure everybody knows the intersection that we're talking about, Eastmore, Alta Loma, and Zeta Manor. My family's lived there for 50 years now, something like that. And I've seen multiple near misses. I've seen pedestrians dart out of the way, all just for the fact that there is no four-way stop there. I was informed by Marion about the other comments, especially the one about, oh, has anybody died on that intersection? I think that's a ridiculous comment to make for something like that. And with the flow of traffic in that area, it's increased from all manner of the high school, number of residents, number of ADUs that are in the area as well. We've increased the number of cars that are actually in the neighborhood. I'm just saying the neighborhood as a whole. I've noticed just an increase in traffic overall. For myself, it's more a matter, and I realize that you guys have tried to mitigate it by putting, I would say, about a 20 to 25 foot kind of like daylighting zone, a red zone, on the corner of Zeta Manor and Eastmore going east. But that does absolutely nothing because UPS trucks park there to make deliveries. There's always, the actual line of sight is always blocked, especially on that turn. And honestly, I've had enough near misses there that I bought a much bigger truck because if I get hit in that thing, it's going to be a lot better than, in a little Civic or a Subaru or something like that. So I have a 5-year-old that lives on the block as well. She goes to MP Brown. And every day just walking to and from school, I see enough people speeding. It's just, I know you put a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit going east, further up on Eastmore, but people don't follow that. I've seen more than enough accidents in that area to know. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. And then Don Suki? Okay.
Good evening, neighbors. I hope you guys are neighbors. I live on Zeta Manor too, and I lived over 40 years there, and the traffic is increasing. And maybe 2 blocks of traffic, and it's stopped already. So if there was a stop sign, it's safer because 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, 81 years old, can't remember. Anyway, I almost got hit. 3 cars, they didn't stop. Their lights were on, but they didn't stop. They were going like 40 miles an hour going down the hill. So, it's, they used to have a cop there, and he'd always guarantee a ticket. What can I say? It's just not safe. I hope you neighbors understand that and appreciate us coming here and talking to you about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that's all that we have for public comment this evening. I want to thank everyone that came up to speak. Thank you. Now moving on, motion to approve consent agenda. Do you have a motion to approve consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to pull item 4 and item 8,
Item 4 and item 8.
please. Thank you.
Okay. With the exception of item 4 and 8, we have I move to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, fiscal year 2024 annual report on the collection and use of developer public facility fees.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Tonight, item number 4 is for the fiscal year 2024 annual report on collection and use of development public facility fees. I'm Amanda Halber. I'm the Assistant Director of Finance and Administrative Services. So tonight for you is the AB 1600 developer public facility fees are revenues derived from developer fees that are restricted to infrastructure expenditures for expansion and enhancements necessitated by new development. The fees generated funding for use for the following infrastructure elements: police facilities and equipment, public library facilities, fire facilities and equipment, recreation facilities, city administrative facilities, city street and sidewalk improvements, water production and distribution facilities, wastewater collection and treatment facilities, and storm drain collection and dispersal facilities. The use of these fees is established in the city's capital budget during each budget period. These fees provide a portion of funding for various eligible projects and priorities established by the adopted budgets. State law requires the city to segregate its public facility fees revenue and not commingle it with other city funds. To meet this requirement, the city has established a separate public facility fees fund specifically to track the collection and use of public fees and to allocate interest earned. State law also requires this annual report be brought before the governing body for approval. The beginning balance in this fund as of July 1st, 2023 was $4,579,631. During fiscal year 2024, revenues totaled $305,566 received from developer fees, and interest of $394,297 was earned. A total of $264,048 was transferred out of AB 1600 fund. $1,552 of that was transferred to the gas tax fund for roadway use projects. $211,302 was transferred to capital improvement fund for storm drain use projects, and $51,195 was transferred to the water fund for water improvement projects. The ending balance in the fund as of June 30th, 2024 was $5,015,446. There is currently $4,085,256 in funds allocated for existing projects, resulting in $930,190 available funds for future use as of June 30th, 2024. Attached was a summary of the activity in the fund. Complete details on the capital projects funded by the public facility fees can be found in the city's capital budget. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the annual report on the collection and use of the developer public facility fees for the fiscal year of 2024.
Thank you very much for your presentation and providing that for us here. I think that's all in our packets. Councilmember DiGiovanni.
Yeah, Ms. Halber, first of all, thank you for that. I think it's good that the public knows about the AB 1600 and that you can't commingle the funds, just a little more understanding. And I really appreciate that your department, and as well as yourself and Mr. Nevin, have made a very, very, I would say, more transparent every time you give a report, and you really have broken it down so that people understand what about these developer public facility, and that they're only used if people read that report for certain things and certain projects. They cannot go to anything else, and how important they are, that we make sure that we collect those fees and that we stay on top of it and ask when it comes before us for projects, and which I know we do, so, and we're on top of it. So I really appreciate it. Great job, and it's a very clear report, and looking forward to all the other projects. Once we get them going, we'll have more money. So I know that we don't have that much money now, but we'll have more money. I feel confident that things will turn around. But thank you, Ms. Halber.
Thank you. Councilmember Prano.
Hi, just a little clarification so that people understand as well. So this is a fee that is required for new projects that are being built. Is that correct?
So it's a one-time fee charged to new development
Correct.
projects. Yeah.
So it's my understanding that it's been a number of years before we had raised this. And so my concern, I just want to make sure, my understanding is any projects that are in process where everything's working, is that their fee is already set? You wouldn't go into like a project that's ready to be built and it's been going through process. That would be whatever it was, the fee that was given to them, correct?
Yeah, so I think you're referring maybe to the item
Item number
number
10.
10, where we're gonna. 'Cause
Talk
this is
about-
just- Yeah, so this one is just letting you know what's currently in the fund.
Okay.
And then item number 10 is where we're gonna discuss what the current fees are, and then that.
Okay, so, you-
And then we'll touch on that during
right.
that too, yeah.
And then, so these fees, when they go to the different departments that run, like, so I'm looking at like police. So when you divide all this money that you have currently in the budget, a certain portion will go to each of these departments that you read.
So we have the kind of total fee, and it's comprised of there's police and there's fire, library, recreation. So it has them all listed here for the storm drain. So when we collect the fee, once it's collected, we do break that out into the different categories to ensure that the money that's being collected for the police does go to police-only projects, or the library goes to the library projects. So we do make sure that that's separated out in the fund, that it's tracked separately.
And with the rise or with the increase, what do you envision? What are we looking at with regards to like the next year or two with the, because it looks like you have 5 million there?
Yes, so it really depends on what developments come through at that time. So I think we've averaged about 500,000 over the past 5 years, but again, that can fluctuate greatly because it all just depends on what development are coming through in the pipeline. So it can, some years we can only have 100,000, some years we may have a lot more than that. So it really just depends.
On the projects?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Councilmember Prano. Seeing no, Councilmember Sylvester.
Ms. Halber,
Hello.
as you were speaking, it's an excellent presentation. And I know what you folks are trying to do. And basically, as Councilmember DiGiovanni said, it's to show and inform the public how we do not commingle the funds, which I think is an outstanding idea. Believe me, some of the questions that was asked, I'm going to get to you on to both of you on item number 10. But this is just a report showing what the funds are and how much is in the account. I think, along with Councilmember Perano, I think would have been a good idea, maybe sometime in the future, is to give us a variance. Like in the years 2021, we brought in X amount of dollars. 2023, we brought in this amount of dollars, just to get an idea, because everything goes up, and you have to account for inflation and CPI index and things like that. But showing a variance, I think, would help tremendously, because where I'm alluding to is, okay, well, how are other cities doing? And I want to compare that with how our city is doing. But other than that, outstanding presentation, great report for full and complete transparency, and I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Sylvester. I want to acknowledge all the work the staff has done on this. The staff report is pretty straightforward. Thank you so much, and providing this for our community. Thank you. So with that, I move to approve this item. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, roll call, please. Madam City Clerk.
Ms. DiGiovanni?
Aye.
Dr. Rod?
Aye.
Ms. Perano?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 8, set time and place for public hearing, proposed ordinance adding chapter 2.60 Women's Commission.
Good
Ms. Leilani
evening.
Ramos.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Before you this evening is a request for the City Council to set December 9, 2024 at 7 p.m. as the date and time for a public hearing. Ordinance adding Chapter 2.0 or 2.60 to the Daly City Municipal Code, establishing a Women's Commission. The City of Daly City has a demonstrated commitment to women's rights and full equality through its legislative actions and ongoing advocacy efforts. On May 26, 2015, the City Council adopted a resolution in support of adopting principles of the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, also known as CEDAW, to promote equal access to and equity in healthcare, economic development, educational opportunities, and employment for women, as well as reducing incidents of violence against women and human trafficking. At the Budget Priority Study Sessions on March 25, 2023, and April 17, 2023, researching a Women's Commission was introduced as a priority for fiscal year 2024. On November 12, 2024, an ad hoc committee comprised of Mayor Jezza Manalo and Councilmember Teresa Perano was created for this effort. Establishing a Women's Commission will provide a platform for women's voices to be heard and is aligned with the city's commitment to achieving equity. A Women's Commission will serve as an advisory body to the City Council with the mission to improve the quality of life for women of all ages in Daly City by identifying women's needs, making informed policy and program recommendations to the City Council, and educating the community on matters concerning women. Staff is available to provide any additional information and answer questions.
Thank you very much, Leilani, for this item and all the work that staff has done. I know that during the time when this item was brought up to the City Council, there were only 4 council members on the City Council. And I think Vice Mayor did allude that it would be so important to have it the 5th council member on board when we decide on an important commission like a women's commission. And so I think, we are thankfully at a good place in regards to having a 5th council member elect. And so with that, it's important for us to look at the priorities, especially around identifying ways for us to support women. We've seen what has happened on a national level. More than ever, do we need to have support for our women in the city of Daly City, which actually tips over. I think the percentage and population in Daly City tips a little bit over towards more women. Actually, we have more women in Daly City in our community. And so I just wanted to acknowledge the staff for putting their work in this, and also for Councilmember Perano for being on ad hoc committee with me and really looking at, this commission and taking it to council in that regard. And so thank you for all that work.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember DiGiovanni.
So I didn't pull the item just for clarification to say anything about being against any of this at this time. I just remember at the last item that I thought you said that you created, at the last meeting, just to clarify, because Mr. Sylvester was not at the dais when you announced the ad hoc. And usually just by process, I just wanted to clarify that usually there's an ad hoc report before something goes onto the agenda. That's all process. And secondly, I just wanted to clarify that in 2015, that for a point of clarification, that I was the one that brought, because I am a part of the CDAW, and I have been since prior to 2015 with Dr. Emily Marase. And that I worked with, at the time, Mayor David Canepa, and brought him over to the San Francisco Commission and the ethics. And then we created that CDAW document to be adopted at that time to look into, as you alluded to, mostly at the city level. CDAW is for cities itself to look at their employment, to look inside, but at that time they said it costs money to do that, to do an analysis. So they didn't implement the part that would cost funding. So that's the purpose of Cities for CDAW at the UN level. I've actually traveled to New York for City CDAW, and was a little disappointed that I wasn't able to work on this with the two of you. But I do think that even moving forward, because it is something for the city to look at analytically, and it requires a report. So there is a cost, not saying I'm against it, for that, of course, staff time and whatever. But I just wanted to clarify, because Mr. Sylvester, I didn't know if anybody, he was not on just to clarify, he was not at the when you guys announced the ad hoc. And just to clarify for him, that the mayor requested an ad hoc that night. But I remember glancing over and he was not sitting at the dais, and that usually there's a report out first before something goes on the agenda. That's all. But I definitely am not saying I'm against anything, because after all, I'm the one that brought it to David Canepa when he was mayor, and he did bring it forward to that council, and it was approved unanimously for the Cities for CDAW to look into it analytically, that I worked on. So, I mean, I would, yeah. So that's all in that manner. So, and who would be the staff person, Leilani, do you know yet?
We're
That
still
would be-
determining that.
Pardon?
That's still being determined.
Oh, okay. So, because anytime we create a commission, we also say there's not a cost, but there is a cost. And even though it's minuscule in the big scheme of things and some of the things that we do in the commissions, we need to be cognizant of staff's time and their bandwidth, I would say. But not saying I'm against it, not saying that this is going on in the ordinance. I want to be very clear about it, because I am part of helping David Canepa get this on the agenda and have it written up in 2015, and still am a member of this organization. So thank you. But I wanted to clarify for Mr. Sylvester.
Thank you. Councilmember Sylvester.
Thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't, as a council member had made mention, I'm sorry I wasn't on the dais, but at that particular time, nature calls, and I stepped away. But I did read about it and watched the meeting afterwards. And so I have a few points here I'd like to bring about, and perhaps that would be answered on the December 9th meeting, because all we're doing now is setting a time and place. However, I need to obtain information, and I'll put these questions out now so that we can prepare. And then hopefully I'll have that come December 9th. So that addresses the creation of the ad hoc committee, in which I understand, and it does exist, not a problem. But when you create an ad hoc committee, generally the committee meets and produces a report to rest of council. And I don't see the report, and neither has it been documented that a report, is on the agenda, but I'm optimistic that the report from the ad hoc committee will be made available on December 9th, or, and I'll read it even prior, because when we post the agenda, that's one question that I will have, and when that time comes. So I got the staff report, creation of the ad hoc. The staff report also mentioned that there's no cost at this time. And I know there has to be some cost, and it's not free. You have staff who supports our various commissions
Yes.
throughout Daly City, and there's going to be some staff time. I just want full and complete transparency. How many hours is going to be devoted? If they meet once a month, maybe only 1 or 2 hours at the most, but at least just provide that information. That's what I'm going to be looking for when we go through this. And lastly, as with our other commissions here in Daly City, the city council and each council member, he or she gets to pick to be who they would like to see serve on this commission. And is that going to be applied the same way? See, I have no idea. I have nothing. So that's a question that I'll be asking. But other than that, I think it's a good idea. I think this is something that we need, but just for complete awareness to our community and our constituents, that I would be one of the first to say, well, we do definitely need this commission, and be able to explain the why. So I'll be asking those questions on December 9th. Lastly, I don't know when the election registrar is going to make that final announcement, because I know you generally received a certificate, congratulations, or certification of the results of the election. And I hope that that's done before December 9th, so that we can all vote on this matter in the proper way. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Sylvester. I want to acknowledge your optimism in regards to this, and I appreciate that.
Through the chair, just point of clarification, like moving forward. So when next time, hopefully when you do ad hoc, that it'll come back and we do the report first before it appears as a notice for public hearing going next. I believe that's where Mr. Sylvester was saying, because we always had a report first. That's the only thing for process-wise. But I remain optimistic, and that I know it didn't happen this time. And but for processes going forward, anytime an ad hoc committee, they usually give it a city council report or time where I've heard them where they do their ad hoc subcommittees or whatever. And then if anything needs to go to the agenda, then it's usually the next meeting. But that's just a point of clarification, because we didn't have a report.
For your comments in
Thank
that
you.
regard. And Vice Mayor, do you have any comments?
I think this commission is very, very important. We scream from the mountaintops about equity, and I feel like I see the importance of a process to understand, but I guess what I'm kind of not understanding is the bureaucracy, which kind of feels like a roadblock and a barrier to make this happen.
No, we're still continuing.
It's my time right now. Sorry, Pam.
Sorry.
But I just feel it is. I get the process of it, but it's also kind of just understanding the history of women's rights, women's voices, and I feel like this is a very patriarchal message you were sending, talking about putting some barriers and more filters when we're trying to get this passed. It's 2024, it's gonna be 2025. We have people in office that's gonna be taking position in power very soon. And I think we need to send a clear message to those in Daly City that at all costs, we need to have a commission that represents women's voices.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you for your comments. And I agree with that. And that's why my note earlier was that, we've seen what has happened on a national level around women's rights. And so it is important for us as the city of Daly City to create something for the voices of women, and also be able to look at the equity piece. And so with that, I gladly move this item. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. And may we have roll call, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni?
Aye.
Dr. Rod?
Aye.
Ms. Perano?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 10, proposed increase in development impact fees, AB 1600. Oh, look, it came back up on our agenda. May we have Amanda Halbert, please? Thank you so much. Maybe this might be some of the in-depth presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Tonight I am joined by Tim Nevin, the Department of Finance, the Director of Department of Finance and Administrative Services. And I'm also joined by Richard Ruiz from DTA Consulting, who the city hired to conduct the Development Impact Fee Justification Study. Item number 10 is a public hearing regarding updating the development impact fees by accepting the Development Impact Fee Justification Study and adopting a resolution approving the proposed changes to the development impact fees. For tonight's presentation, I will be starting off with a little background of the Daly City's current development impact fees, also known as AB 1600 fees. Then I will pass it to Richard Ruiz from DTA, who will present the Development Impact Fee Justification Study. I will then review the proposed fees for consideration, followed by the next steps. To begin, we wanted to provide a little bit of background information on the city's current development impact fees, also known as AB 1600 fees. AB 1600 was created by Section 66000 of the Government Code when was enacted by the state of California in 1987. Development impact fees are one-time fees imposed on new development projects to help offset the growth-related costs of public service and infrastructure. These fees are used to help pay for future infrastructure needs caused by new development for parks, community centers, police, fire, local roads, storm drains, and sewers. Daly City last conducted a study for these fees in 1999 with a slight revision of the study in 2002 that did not result in any changes to the fees. Therefore, the development impact fees have not been adjusted in 25 years. Daly City hired DTA to conduct a development impact fee justification study to update these fees. I will now pass it over to Richard Ruiz from DTA, who will now present more information on the development impact fees as it relates to the justification study.
Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed working over the past year or so with your staff. They've been incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
We do this a lot, and I wanted to kind of expand on what exactly development impact fees are. Say I'm a property owner. I'm going to build several houses. I'm going to build multifamily apartments. I'm going to build commercial development. All of that's going to add to the city. You're going to add property taxes, sales taxes, employees, permits and fees and so forth. But you're also going to generate some externalities, some negative externalities. You're going to have more strain on sewer. You're going to have more strain on water, more strain on storm drain, fire and police and so forth. And what a development impact fee is, it's a fee to help mitigate some of that extra cost, and it's placed on the developers as opposed to the person that lives there. So it's a really important fee, but there are a lot of real strict rules with it. Under AB 1600, you can only collect it a certain way. You have to have a nexus study justifying the fee level that you're going to charge, and that's what this is, and that's what we work on. And what we do is we look at the demographics and the land uses in your city. Currently, I think we projected it out to 2040. So that's how we started. And it's an additional funding tool. It's like another tool in your toolbox, as it may have been mentioned earlier, it is not a constant stream of revenue. It only comes in when you're building. So that's one of the things you have to keep in mind. And it's strict on where you can spend the money. It has to be on facilities and building and equipment due to new development. Say your city's going to grow. You can build a new fire station if you want to. What you can't do is fix an old roof in the old fire station or fix the locker room. So it's very strict on how it's done. If we can go to the next page. These are the fees to be updated. Administrative, police, fire, library, parks, transportation, water, sewer, and storm drain. So it's a long evaluation. As Amanda mentioned, it was last updated in 1999. So these fees were based on the land uses and the demographics and the facilities of 20-something years ago. So that nexus that was established is no longer there. It would be hard to try and justify it. So that's what we're doing here. And keep in mind, when we look at these individual fees or these individual areas, it's a system. It's a system that you're going into. You may not even use it. Let's say I build a house. I've lived in my house for 20 years. I've never had to call the fire department or the police department, but I have access to it. So if I build a house, I still have access to that police and to that fire. There may be a road that I don't use, but if I ever have a heart attack or something and I have to call a first responder, they're going to use that road. So that's why we're looking at these particular areas. Transportation, water, sewer, and storm drain are a little bit different because that's something you can quantify a little bit easier, at least in the aggregate. And to put this together, there are a number of methodologies that we use. The whole purpose of having a fee schedule is so you don't have to do an individual development with every single project. That would be very difficult, complicated, and it would be expensive. So we have a couple methodologies that we use. We use two. One was called a level of service standards based. The other one is plan based. A level of service just says, here's what you have, the level of service you have now. In 2040, to maintain that same level of service, this is what the fee has to be. Plan-based says we're going to build a number of things. We're going to build a number of roads. We're going to add to the sewer, water, storm drain systems. We're going to add all that up, and we're going to base our fee on what that's going to cost over the next 15 years. So those are the two methodologies we are using. There are a number of other methodologies we can use. We've chosen these two because of the type of information we've been able to receive from your city. Again, they've been very, very good at providing us with everything we need over the past, gosh, it's been about a year now, a year and a half. Okay. And you might wonder, well, how do they allocate, how do they quantify all of this? If you look at this form or look at this slide, you'll see person served. That pretty much means residential. It's residents, and it also means employees of people working in the city. Parks and recreation is standard. Transportation, we use average daily trips. Water, we use gallons per day. Sewer, gallons per day. Storm drain, we use runoff coefficients. And again, this goes to the reason why we have a fee schedule, why we have this fee schedule. If we didn't have this fee schedule, you'd have to quantify each of these areas one at a time for every single project you do. That would be very, very difficult. And so that's the methodology we've used there. The next slide, these are your current impact fees. Again, these are based on the land uses and the demographics and the facilities from 1999 with revisions in 2002. Residential ranges from $2.35 a square foot to $9 a square foot. So that's what was calculated years ago. And I think was there a cost escalation each year on that? Okay, there was no cost escalation. So the fees are fairly out of date. You're pretty much, use a crude term, you're leaving money on the table. Non-residential development, it's $2.50 a square foot. But there's all kinds of non-residential development. There's commercial, there's industrial, there's, institutional. Let's say you opened a gas station. You know the gas stations that have the Arcos, that have the big convenience stores? You have hundreds of cars coming through there every single day. You have maybe a hairdresser up the street, right now you're charging them pretty much the same fee. So what we did is we divided that out. We broke it into 4 categories: commercial, industrial, institutional, and what's the other one? Office. You could probably expand that more. I mean, you could, in your city, you probably have 1,500 businesses. You can get carried away if you have too many categories, because what you end up doing is doing a specific fee for one specific project again. All right. And the next slide these are the proposed development impact fees. And when we talk about proposed development impact fees, under the law, AB 1600, these are the maximum fees you're allowed to charge. You can charge up to that. You don't have to charge these fees exactly. You can charge anything up to that. You can phase them in over the next couple of years. You can do it any way you want. But these are the fees that we could justify in our Nexus study.
So you're saying this is the maximum that we can charge, this slide?
Yes, hotel, let's say per room, it's $525. And you discuss among yourselves, and you look at your surrounding cities and their hotel
But this
fees.
is this is the state that is proposing, this is the maximum you could charge a
Yes,
developer.
ma'am. Yes, let's say you said, well, you know what, that just looks too high. They may not build a hotel in this town. We do it at $400, but it would have to be, you would set the fee at $400. So what this does, again, it just sets the maximum fee that you're allowed to charge, given this Nexus study. All right. And the next slide, this is a comparison of the single-family residential fees for the development impact fees for surrounding cities.
Can we go back to the previous question? You said this is the maximum. I understand there's a maximum set by the state, but when you talk about the Nexus study, you're talking about the study that you've done.
The one that we've done, yeah. This isn't set by the state. This is what we've come up with. We've said, okay, here's your population. Here's your population and demographics in 2040. Here's what the inventory of what you have. We ran some calculations, and this is the fee study that we came up with. And one thing I wanted to, I want to make sure I mention, this is the big written study. Gosh, it's like 140 pages. And you might think, well, why is it so big? We're trying to make this as transparent as possible. We explain it step by step by step. We have an appendix for every single fee category. So if somebody should decide on some Saturday morning with a cup of coffee to actually go line by line by line by line with a calculator, you can see where we got the number from and why we came up with the number that we did.
Thank you.
Does that cover the question?
Understood. Was that given to us? That big report?
Pardon me?
The large report you talked about?
That's the report. That's the Nexus study that we presented to the city.
Yeah, so that was the report that it's a part of the, I think it's attachment A of the staff report. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Going to the next slide, these are the residential development impact fees for some surrounding cities. The yellow bar is the proposed, all the proposed totaled up. The light blue, those are your other fees. You currently have 12 regions. We didn't do the study 12 years or 20 years ago, so I don't know why they were broken into regions. Usually, oftentimes when a fee study is initiated, you have regions for some reason or another. I mean, I don't know what they are. And the black ones, those are the surrounding jurisdictions. Those are what the fees are. But you have to be careful when you look at surrounding jurisdictions because the nature of the other cities are different. You could have a small city that's developing a whole lot of building. So their fees are going to be real high because it's based on what they're building. And you could have another city that's similar, but they're pretty much built out. They can only build after they tear something down, so their fees may be much lower. So this is only a guideline. We're just showing you what the other cities charge around you. It isn't necessarily a guideline on how you should set your own fees. You should set your own fees based on this Nexus study, right? The second one we couldn't, this type of material doesn't lend itself to a graph. This is the non-residential development impact fees. Proposed, current in the black columns, and then again, the surrounding jurisdictions in the red. Again, you would follow this as a guideline, and for the same reason, each city has its own characteristics, and they're all a little bit different. So we put this together, and our findings were the residential fees are listed on a per square foot basis. There's a new law called AB 602 that pretty much says you, unless you can come up with a better metric, you have to charge per square foot residential. And your city does that anyway. So, it isn't changing really anything. The non-residential fees are also on a per square foot basis. Hotel fees are listed on a per room basis. And that's just to stay consistent with what pretty much everybody else does. If I'm going to come in with a hotel, I say I'm going to build a 500-room hotel, the first thing I'm going to think of as a developer is, what am I going to pay per room? So that's why we did it per room. Currently, you just have it $2.50 for everybody. So it doesn't, it's an apples and orange and chairs. So that's why we've done it like this. And you might also consider an optional 2% administrative component to the total. So let's say your fee is, $2 a square foot. It may come up to $2.10 a square foot because you've added a 2% fee because this is kind of new and you have to implement it. That's a common thing to do, okay? And we also think that you should have an annual cost escalator to the fee, because if you have a fee and it's, you haven't escalated the cost, you're paying the same fee as you did 20 years ago. And what we would use, as opposed to a consumer price index, we would use a construction cost index, which is a little bit different. You're looking at building costs and things like that. So those are pretty much our findings. And again, you can argue that the fees are going up, and you can argue that some of these categories, well, is there really a nexus between this type of commercial and that type of commercial? Well, we had to come up with some categories. If you come up with too many categories, you're kind of watering the thing down. And again, you end up trying to do a calculation for individual businesses. And you have, thousands of different kinds of businesses. A hairdresser, a barber shop, a cemetery, a church, a hospital. They're all going to be a little bit different. And so what we did is, with the land uses and the demographics, we looked at how big your houses were, the average square footage, the person per household, the number of employees per 1,000 square feet. And yes, you can show up and you can argue it. You can say, well, you know what, I'm going to move in by myself. I'm going to live in a house, and you're saying it's 2.75 people per household. Well, okay, that's maybe, but I'm living here by myself. It's only my one person. So there's always an argument to be made on why this fee isn't accurate and doesn't show a good nexus. But we're confident that this will work. So
When you showed page 12 prior, and then you mentioned this is just kind of a example, and when I look at the hotel at 6,627 per room, compared to the other jurisdictions that, I know Millbrae has hotels, San Mateo does, I think San Bruno has a couple, right? Just obviously, as you mentioned, there's a lot of different, you know, aspects that come into the computation of that. And so I'm just trying to understand, obviously, every city is different. But right now, when I see 6,627 per room, obviously it's, our population, a lot of different pieces go into this. That's actually what has gone into the calculation, right? I mean,
right.
yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, we have an appendix where we show the calculations. We said, okay, here's existing development, here's new development over the next 14, 15 years. We ran our numbers, and that number, that's the number that we came up with. That's a defensible number we came up with. Again, that's the maximum you can charge. It says you can charge anything up to that. You don't have to charge that. you can charge $2,000 a square foot. I mean, you can charge $2,000 a room or $500 a room, whatever you feel works for your city. This is just saying, under this Nexus study, this says this is what you can charge up to that.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Prano?
I was just going to piggyback on what the mayor mentioned. And I understand where you're saying that this is the maximum. But if we're basing it off of using parks and recs and all that other things that you're saying, where would a hotel be? You know what I mean? If it's just a huge amount of money compared to, and right next to it, can you confirm where it says current Daly City, we were charging $2.50?
It's $2.50 per square foot, but right
Right.
now, I don't know per square foot of what. I don't really know right now.
Okay, and it looks like it was all the way for anything built. That's just was a blank
Yeah, it wouldn't matter if I built a warehouse
fee.
or hotel
Correct.
or a gas station or anything
Right,
else.
right.
Yes.
So again, we're at, and that's why per room would, is it the ballroom or is it a?
No, these are just sleeping rooms.
Right.
These are sleeping rooms, yes, ma'am.
But again, I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, not seeing your whole report. And that, again, I understand where you're saying it could just be $2,000 if that's what we chose to do. But that's the maximum. But I'm trying to understand why it would be that high if what we're looking at is covering parks, recs, I know, understand sewers, but I mean, I'm just, it's a lot more than the other cities. And I'm guessing, right, that that's just the maximum. That wouldn't necessarily be what you would be choosing to charge a business
Well, I just wanted
to build?
to add a couple comments in response to that. You had mentioned, I believe it was, I'll go back to a slide. This slide here, slide 10, shows hotel on the second row. There isn't a parks charge in that.
Okay, well,
that's only for
that's
the
right. Okay,
residential.
yeah. Okay, I see that.
You just mentioned
I
parks. so
did.
wanted to
Thank you for clarifying
point
that.
that out.
I
It's-
appreciate that.
That piece of it's not part of the calculation for hotels. And then, as we discussed in the earlier item on consent, the revenue that we collect is allocated into those different components, and that's how we track it, and that's how we keep the monies into those specific components for those specific uses. So, as mentioned in the parks column specifically, that's only for residential developments
Got it.
where you would have that.
Sorry,
park
I didn't find my
included in
page
that.
with it, so I apologize
No,
for
that's okay.
throwing
And-
out parks. But, so could you kind of maybe clarify just a little then, Tim, with regards to that 250 where we, you know, you're looking at $2.50 and then you're looking at 6,627 or even 250 and then we're looking, well, the highest would be commercial 15.58.
Yeah, so the slide before on slide 9, that does show the current fees that are charged in the city, and these are fees from 1999, as mentioned. The second part is non-residential. So that includes everything below residential on slide 10. So hotel, commercial retail, office, industrial, institutional, other, are all in that one little line on the bottom, $2.50 per square foot was the old calculation back then. So in terms of, as Mr. Ruiz mentioned, their calculations looked specifically at just hotel rooms and number of rooms per development and that type of thing to get to this maximum number. As mentioned, if it's, you know, what staff will recommend is that we utilize these numbers that are 25 years in the making in terms of what these fees should be. As Mr. Ruiz mentioned, it is a maximum fee as calculated from a Nexus study. So the state of California would allow that to be charged here, but we could lower that if so desired.
So the concern I have is not just for a hotel, but we just passed the housing element, and we have to have so many properties built and so well, first of all, I understand the process. I mean, 25 years is a long time to raise fees, so that I understand. I'm not even going to ask why that hadn't been done before. But I would hate to have somebody be penciling numbers and trying to decide if they're going to build here or in the process of, and then we lose those properties and then have a problem with the housing element.
If I may,
Yes, sir.
when I look at the $2.50 per square foot for hotels, it may be really big. Probably not 6,000, but it's probably pretty big right now because it's $2.50 for, however many square foot that hotel is. So it may be pretty big right now. I don't know what it is. As for the land element, there are all kinds of, this is out of the scope of what we do, but there are all kinds of developer agreements that cities enter into with developers. Oftentimes, developers will build a street, or they'll build a park, or they'll do something in lieu of a fee. And again, that's something that your city works out. This type of fee, it's another tool in your toolbox, whether you choose to use it or not. And it's again, when it's that long between fee calculations, you get sticker shock.
Sure.
Oh my God, it's like me, it's like, oh my God, in 1992, I was paying $500 rent or something, and I moved back to the city. It's like, oh my God, it's $3,500 now because I've been gone for so long, and I've seen that when we do these updates, when we update these, they're 3 to 5 years old. It's much more focused, and we get a lot more questions because we have to justify everything. You have to justify a fee increase if it's been that short. Usually you can justify a bigger fee increase when it's been this long. It's just been a very long time. I've worked in cities where they haven't, I won't mention the name, but it's like 1992. I've worked on 2 cities where the last fees were in 1992. So you have major sticker shocks. I mean, you have developers going to the BIA, the Building Industry Association, speaking for them. Why are you increasing them? Well, it's because all those fees were based on the economy, 30-something years ago. Again, these are the maximum fees you're allowed, so it's the option for your city.
Just clarification, something you said, Amanda, when I asked ahead of time, sorry about that. Projects that are in the pipeline, those are not going to be touched on all. Later on. Sorry, I keep jumping ahead. I'll let you go with that. That's it. Thank you so much for answering
As
the
part of
question.
our staff recommendation slide.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we can go back to any of these slides too after we.
Okay. And we can go back to Amanda. That's my part.
Thank you. I know you'll have that. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're just going to review the proposed fees. So the fees in the study, again, are a maximum amount that can be charged. The proposed fees listed here have been rounded down slightly. The residential fee is proposed to be $15.50 per square foot. The hotel fee would be $6,600, and I think that's supposed to be $7. Sorry about that. Per room. The commercial retail fee would be $15.50 per square foot. The office fee would be $9.50 per square foot. The industrial fee would be $8.50 per square foot, and the institutional other fee would be $11 per square foot. The city is allowed to have an administrative fee up to 2% of the development impact fee total. However, it is recommended to have no charge or 0% admin fee at this time. City staff recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving an update of the development impact fee justification study, the proposed changes to the development impact fees, to approve an annual cost escalator to the development impact fees based on the California Cost Construction Index, approve building permit applications submitted prior to the hearing continue to use those current rates, and consider due process appeals regarding disputes with development impact fees in accordance to law, and to update the development impact justification study at least every year, 8 years. The next steps would be to conduct a public hearing. Council consider staff recommendations for adoption. If the fees were to be approved, the fees would go into effect 60 days after the approval, which would be January 27th, 2025. The fees will then be included in the master fee schedule with CCCI increases for the master fee schedule in fiscal 2027. And staff is available to provide any additional information desired. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of you for this really important update. I think those that are watching and in the audience, it's been quite some time for us to actually be reviewing and looking at these fees. It's long overdue, very long overdue. And we know that this also impacts what type of services we could provide for our community. And so I don't think we can hold off any longer. And so I know that you did a lot of fact finding, as you mentioned, given the fact that it's been quite some time in trying to really put together a nexus to the fees that you've proposed this evening. And so I just want to acknowledge the staff, our consultant, for all the work that you've done. I want to give the opportunity to my colleagues, for any further questions at this time. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I was going to echo Councilwoman Perano's question about what about like the developments that are in the process? And I know there was a recommendation, but if you can provide information for my colleagues and for those in public, I'd appreciate the information.
So we are recommending that any development that has submitted any building permit applications at this point still continue to be grandfathered in to use the current rates that we currently have. So they wouldn't be subject to those new fees, knowing that they submitted the applications with the current fees.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for that question. I do see the importance of ensuring that businesses that have invested and are looking particularly to build in our community are not halted within progress, right? I think we've seen how many development sites we do have in Daly City, and it's important, whether it's housing or commercial, that we keep the steady pace moving forward. So I appreciate your question with that, Vice Mayor, in regards to that, because I know that, we've approved some developments and we're always looking for them to actually come to fruition. And every time there are developments that we've passed and there's still an empty lot, I wonder how long it'll ever take. And so we know that I think we're a council that has been pro-development as far as ensuring that we have more affordable housing, more housing in general, more commercial development. But it's a balance, right? And so for those that are already en route, I think it does make sense for us to keep them grandfathered. But then for those that have not yet kind of had any concept or whatnot, I think we are long overdue. I mean, just look at the fees. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's been since 1999 or revised 2002. I won't even say where I was at that time in my, so it's definitely, I'm glad, I want to thank the staff and also my colleagues here. I think it's, long overdue, and we're taking a step forward to ensure that our cities are not behind. I think very similar, we did something around increasing our sales tax, right? It's like it hadn't been done for a very long time. And so I think we're making sure that we are doing our duty in that regard. And so, Councilmember DiGiovanni.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor. So I want to echo what everybody else said, that not just because we're overdue, is that I think that when people say they haven't built or haven't built, we all know construction costs, interest rates, all that is impactful for people when they're not having built yet, but they've had everything has been approved by us. So it seems like we're waiting, but it's also those things are a factor that keep people from building. And doing this, it's just we're making sure it's fair. I appreciate all the data that went into that, and that we're not even charging an administrative fee. We're being very fair. So we're looking like, because we want people to be treated and be friendly when they come here to build. But yet at the same time, it is a big impact, like on our police, fire, wastewater. I mean, that big project at Ceremony, and then the ones that were lucky enough to get the older impact fees, that's a lot of projects that have gone by for a long time. And I know that it's, and like you said, the numbers, like in South City, where they have a lot of biotech, we have to remember those things that they're a little bit different that meet our daily city. So you've taken to those things into account, which I appreciate, and made sure they were equitable. And because now hopefully things will turn around in the other way for the construction costs and the interest rates and all the others. So they can start, right? So the developers can consider, and now they know upfront, and it'll be grandfathered in, and then we'll be back on track. But I was like a little thrown back. I know probably the other council members like, this is 2002. Oh my goodness gracious, right? And then, and for you guys taking that step forward, that is huge, and appreciate it. And look forward to keeping the theme, which I appreciate the knowledge that we are keeping it fair. And that's what we want to be known as. When people come here and they come to the Economic Development Office, or I see Mr. Strauss out there and who has a vested interest in our city or whatever. I mean, there's plenty of people there. We want to be fair, just be fair. And I think you've done that. So I think it's a great model, and I think the numbers that you suggest are well thought out. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Sylvester.
Thank you to the staff and Mr. Ruiz for your presentation. I have quite a few questions. Excuse me. Now, in looking at this information on the proposed raises, you said that this would only apply to new developments. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So subsequently, if someone who's currently in an old development or wherever the residents, and they want to obtain a permit to either remodel, because in this city, you have to obtain building permits to do different things. Are those fees also going to adjust, which I think it is going to adjust based upon what I've seen in the chart?
If you're remodeling your home, these fees won't apply.
Okay. Hypothetical question.
Okay.
I'm a developer and I want to build 25 units. But in order for me to build the 25 units, because based upon the statement that I've heard, the reason why we want to go with these changes in fees is due to infrastructure changes. And I definitely get it. I definitely understand. But if I'm a developer, and you're going to charge me an impact fee to build my units, will plan check require myself as a developer to not only pay the impact fees, but also to pay for the sewer infrastructure upgrade? Let's just say, for instance, a development that's going across from existing homes where you have sewer infrastructure now, and it's accommodating those homes. But if I'm a developer and I want to put 13 more homes in, you're going to charge me not only an impact fee, but also to increase the sewer infrastructure underneath.
Was that sewer infrastructure built to accommodate that new development?
No.
No.
Was I'm no expert, but obviously 13 homes or maybe even 20 homes is definitely going to impact the current infrastructure. But then are you going to put the onus on the developer to not only pay the impact fee because we know why we're doing it, but also to say if you want to build those homes, you will also have to upgrade the current infrastructure.
Usually, usually in my experience, no, they're two different. They're two different approaches. Oftentimes, you have what another methodology called a buy-in, where you say we have so much infrastructure built, we have more, and you're gonna buy into that. Okay, that's one way. The second way is if you're gonna build that infrastructure, you wouldn't be charging them both fees. You have one or the other.
Okay, great point. Because another option which may work is to the developer, myself as a developer, is to say, you know what? Why should I increase the current infrastructure that already exists? Why can I build something parallel to what already exists? I mean, can you imagine the savings and the cost?
Yeah, oftentimes when these start, especially when it's that type of infrastructure, the city often, or the developer often has developer agreements ahead of time. And if you have an in-place
Right.
developer agreement, you may not have to pay that. That's between the developer and the city. You may not have to pay that developer impact fee.
Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification because had a question on that. Now, maybe Mr. Chu can answer this question, or Mr. Nevin. There's a law that has been passed pertaining to backflow, where every single resident in Daly City has to install backflow. That includes single-family homes. Mr. Picolotti, are you familiar with that? Or I can see the expressions, and we're going to have an issue.
Through the chair, you're speaking of on the water side, on
Yes.
the supply side.
Yes.
I'll defer to the director of water and wastewater because I believe he can answer that question. He's here tonight.
Because they'll need permits for that, and how many residences are in Daly City, and some may be seniors, and can they pay? They have to take out a permit.
Thank you, sir. If I may, yes, there are new regulations having to do with backflow devices. We are currently right now studying those updated regulations, and we hope to make a presentation to you on the council because there probably will need to be municipal code changes.
Yeah.
And it will be an increased cost for different things. So
Okay.
yes, those will be coming to you in the next new year.
Okay. Well, in preparation for that report, hopefully I would be looking for a mechanism to assist those who are indigent and really can't afford. The only reason why I bring that up because of experience from what I've heard, but I'm thinking of the permitting process, and we're going to raise fees, and that's why my first question, does this apply to earlier developments? But what I get is just new developments coming in. But I'm concerned about the current existing developments. Thank you, Josh. All right. Slide number 9. Why is there a difference in the zones?
That was done in, I guess, 1999, and I'm sorry, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. So if I'm a developer, I would probably try to build in zone number 11. Zone number 9. Is Daly City broken up into various zones? Is it because of the geographical conditions within these particular zones and the building?
I barely started working here in 1999, but through urban legend, or not urban legend, I think it's somewhat unfact. I think what they did is they looked at the infrastructure improvements that were going to have to happen, and they distributed them geographically. So people in a different zone were paying for the infrastructure improvements that were assigned to that area. So I think there was one that was sort of an outlier, and I think it included Crocker Avenue because I think there was going to be a big widening project.
Do we know what zone Crocker Avenue is?
I think it's probably the one that's highest. Zone 5.
Probably the most expensive, zone number 5.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing.
Yes.
Because I'm familiar with Crocker Avenue, and that is very tough, and especially to put in any new infrastructure, to including new development, that's going to be tough. So we're substantiating, we're verifying, and we're validating why. And you know, I want to be able to explain it, and that's why.
If I may,
Yes.
In just doing this over the years,
Right.
I see this when cities first implement development impact fees. I see it a whole lot in storm drains, especially because you have different, different levels, and so that happens. We've seen this in parks also, because when it's first done, it makes sense. It's a nightmare trying to update it, because you have to look at the development, employment and development building for each one of those zones. You have to sit on a map and actually do that. And the reason that it was done, back then may not be valid anymore. Again, I don't know.
Thank you. Slide number 10. Transportation for hotels is $13.51. Why? $1,351, line number 2. On the right side in the black column.
Again, I'm sorry, Councilman, I don't have the calculations in front of me.
Okay,
But as I mentioned, we have it in an appendix where you can actually go down and,
okay.
if you like, I could probably write up something and send it to you off the top of my head. I couldn't tell you.
Okay, well, what I'm looking for, instead of a set fee, the negotiation process with developers, especially if one is going to build a hotel, $13.51, and we can ask for, how you say it? I want to say acquisitions, or give us something back in return. What if the hotel developer says, you know what? I will provide shuttle service and pay for shuttle service every hour, on the hour, every half hour to local transit. Would that reduce some of that cost rather than putting it on to the developer?
That's something that you would be able to work out with the developer.
Okay. Slide number 11. I think Mr. Nevin knew I was probably going to ask this question, because I always look for variance and how do we compare with other cities. That's an outstanding slide. Outstanding, and it definitely shows why we need to do this. Slide number 12. What I got from slide number 12, Mr. Ruiz, as you had made mention, every city has its own characteristics. And that's why we have the fees there. That's excellent information and good stuff.
Thank you.
I'm almost done here. Why are we trying to jump and collect all the fees at one time when we haven't done it in 25 years?
As I might have mentioned earlier, you don't have to. If you'd like,
Right.
you can phase these in
Right.
over 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. Again, that gets rid of sticker shock. We've seen that. We've seen that before. We've done a lot of these, and when you get a big increase like that, oftentimes it's a percentage. You figure out you over 3 years, or 5 years, 7 years. Those are usually the times. And the same with the construction cost index. When you go through really high periods of inflation, like a couple of, I think 2 years ago was like at 14% or some insane thing. What we did for the construction cost index we said, let's use a moving average for 3 years, moving average for 4 years, moving average for 5 years, and that flattens out the increase. So there are all kinds of things you can do with this, but the calculation that says, here are the maximum fees, and you have all kinds of options. As I mentioned earlier, it's a tool in your toolbox. You can implement it in a number of different ways.
Thank you. Mr. Nevin, I can see you grabbing for the mic, and I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to say it for you in just a moment. But that brings up another question that I have, Mr. Ruiz, because slide number, I think it's near the end. You're asking for approval to accept the proposed changes. Well, we don't have to accept these numbers here. You're asking for approval tonight to accept them. So I think we need to discuss, or would that require another meeting? Because quite honestly, if I was a developer and I want to build a 100-room hotel, we're looking, if we were to take your figures here, we're looking at 600,000 impact fee because we're charging per room. I mean, that wouldn't pencil in for me, not counting, labor and CCI and I think we need to talk about that and come up with a decision that I think would be
If you
good.
built, excuse me, sir, if you built one now with your current fees, you're charging $2.50 a square foot, but right now we don't know what that is. I mean, if you had a hotel, how many, is it
Right,
100,000 square feet or what? So the fee may be up there right now anyway.
Well, I get it.
I don't know.
You made mention about that before, and so if we were to remain per foot, maybe like commercial retail at, I'm just taking this as an example, $15.50, and they say that the place is 66,000 square feet, that would probably still come out less than a little bit over $500,000 based on the amount of rooms.
Yeah, that's a big fee.
It's just my thoughts. That's all. All right. So finally, I'd like to commend staff and Mr. Ruiz on your presentation, and I'm very impressed with the ACC. And I think so that we don't have this issue in the future, the ACC will take care of it. Annual cost calculation. I'm definitely all for that, so we don't have to be here again saying, well, we haven't done this in 10 or 15 years. We do it now and get it onto the books. And but other than that, just a few questions that I had, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from my colleagues? Seeing none at this time. Is this up for, do we have public comment? Okay, at first let's open the hearing. So motion to open hearing?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment on this item? This is all general public comment. Okay, seeing none.
Motion to close.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. So we are at this place right now in regards to moving this item.
So move.
Okay, I have a first from Vice
Second.
Mayor and a second from Councilmember Di Giovanni. And may we have roll call, please?
Discussion, point of order.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. There's a motion on the floor, and for final discussion, I'd like to make the final, a comment. This is long overdue, and we have to start somewhere. This proposal does not include a phased-in approach for impact fees. Either we can do it on a 3-year or maybe even 5 years. Every year it goes up until, because I don't have the well, so we have something right now, but another issue is, I believe that the charge for the hotel will be a hindrance for any hotel developer to come in unless, we can provide more information. I just think $6,287 is an inordinate amount and is based on per room basis. Uh, uh, that may hinder any possible development for hotels later on in the future, and that's what I'm concerned about. So I would hope that either we change that, but in order to change it, we have to have some information. And Mr. Rule says, well, I don't know what the square footage is, but I think we need to start somewhere instead of just saying per room. I mean, even just a 10-room hotel would be, what was it, 60,000? That's quite a bit. So, my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester, on that comment. Earlier when I asked about the fees, very early on in the conversation around the hotel fees, what I did get a response from staff is that that is a maximum. It doesn't mean that would be the fee that we would charge. Is that correct? Because that was what was mentioned. So it doesn't mean that the fee will be 6,000. It could actually be lower than that.
Correct. That's the fee that was calculated. That's the reason for doing the Nexus study. If council's more comfortable with, really we can do, as Councilmember Sylvester mentioned, it's been 25 years. But with regard to, let's just call out the hotel just for a second. $6,628 per room on a development impact fee. If a council wanted to have that increase over time, we could do that. Staff recommendation would be we just would take, let's say it was a 3-year phase-in. We would take 1/3 of the proposed fee and increase that for the next 3 years. But staff would also, look at that. We don't have many hotels that are taking place in Daly City, so those are important, and we don't want to not have them happen because of these fees. So there is a nexus for that fee, but if it's more comfortable to phase that in, we could do that.
Okay, so, but my question was that that's the maximum, and that as a council, or it doesn't have to be the 6,000 per, right? And so where is that decision gonna be made? Understanding that that's a maximum,
Yes.
and so,
So for staff, taking DTA's study and their report and bringing that to you this evening, our recommendation is that we would use the proposed fees as calculated by DTA. However, I think that the decision rests with the council as to potential phase-ins or other items related to how quickly would we want these fees to increase. So I think the decision could be, from staff's point of view, we have the calculation, we're coming for authority to charge a new fee. We would be charging that fee, again, for the hotel that I'm speaking about, just specifically, we would be charging that unless council would like a phase-in. We will then phase it in.
okay, and so, would that phase in, obviously, it's a phase-in approach for any particular development down the line, and it would only be for hotel.
If council desires. So, for example, these fees as approved this evening would take effect in 60 days, January of 25. If we were to say it was a 3-year phase-in on hotel, we can take the 6,628 figure, split it in thirds, and start out with the fee of $2,200 starting in January of 25. Then we could have a phase-in where If you'd like a 12-month phase-in, we could do January of '26 would be then 4,400, and then in January of '27, it would be the full 6,600 as a phase-in.
Okay. And I would just ask this for our city attorney, and I'll get to you, Councilmember Prano. If we were to do a friendly amendment with a phase-in approach, with Vice Mayor's, motion, we would be able to include that and ensure that that's recorded for moving forward.
Yes, you would need a friendly amendment to
Okay.
the motion, because
Okay.
the motion is to approve the current recommendation.
I would actually move to add a friendly amendment with a phased approach for the hotel, if that's okay with you, Vice Mayor.
Accepted, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Priano.
Thank you. Just a quick question. You mentioned something, Mr. Reese, about the fee of the $250 that was square foot. And so depending on the building, it might not be far off than what you've already calculated, but it would be great to have had an idea, like, oh, if this same building was built then or now with this fee, and then with the new fee, knowing that, again, that's the top, that 6,000 is the top, and that you could have done, depending on the project, could be 3,000 or 2,000. That was one question. And the other thing was the concern with the hotels, one, because the fee was so different, so large. But I didn't see anything for like apartments or condos, something like that, where we're hoping to have, some of those projects come down the line. Is it the same type of idea? Oh, and the last thing is, when you mentioned, sir, about it being per room, you said it was per, like, a sleeping room. So, for instance, if this hotel had a ballroom, the kitchen, the lobby, all that would not be included. So there that lies too, is in calculation, to be hard for us to figure out, especially if you started, again, with a certain fee, and that was total square footage of an entire building. So,
That's one of the issues now, how to measure that. Gets different in every town I've seen. Sometimes it's ballrooms and, do you do hallways? That's the reason they went to rooms with hotels.
okay, so you hear where I'm asking, because there's no comparison in our mind. I can just imagine 6,000 going, that's a lot of
Yeah,
money.
that is a lot
Yeah,
of money. It is
but-
you could say, okay, let's do 4,000, phase in 4,000 if you wanted to. All this fee schedule says this is just by law the maximum that you could charge.
What my fear is, because we don't have a comparison of an entire building that we used to, every square footage you would charge. I would hate, like you said, it could be comparable. I would hate to say, hey, we're going to vote and say do half, start here, and we find out we were charging a little more and we're losing money. So that would be my only concern. I don't want to have us where we're so high that we lose hotels or we lose apartment buildings or we lose condos. We lose a development because that amount of money, it's more, it's $1 million more, and they're saying that doesn't pencil out, and I can't do a project in Daly City. So that's my concern. I think we need to do it. It's well overdue, but I'm just concerned about trying to compare apples to apples. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your report.
And just to add to that, slide 12 that we looked at, there is some data here collected by DTA regarding at least San Bruno, San Mateo, Millbrae, Pacifica, in terms of a per room charge that they currently have for development impact fees. Just as a comparison, but ideally we would have the last hotel built in Daly City, and what was the development impact fee for that hotel?
You didn't tell us what cities hadn't raised their fees, but I wouldn't know if those fees are old,
Those are, the latest fees, when they raised them, I don't know.
That's what I meant.
Sometimes those are the questions that we ask.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's
There's another one.
Are there any more questions or comments? Okay.
I got one. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for bringing up that slide again. I'm looking at San Mateo, which is the closest city to our population as well, but they overtook Daly City, so they're a little bit larger. I think 4,005, was it 4,500? 4,677.
Correct.
I think that's very, very reasonable. This would require, for my colleagues to consider a friendly amendment that we accept $4,600 with a phase-in approach of over 3 years, if that's okay with my colleagues. Or do we stay at the 6,287? Thank you, Tatum. I always believe it's better to have a piece of the pie than no pie at all.
Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester. I hear your friendly amendment in that regard. I just want to ask some clarifying questions in regards to the study. I know earlier today you mentioned that every city is not the same, and that obviously San Mateo has the 4,677 per room. You have us at 6,627. And all different factors have come into their Nexus study and then our Nexus study. How similar has, the fees related to hotel, the inputs that San Mateo had, with their Nexus study, is it similar to ours? I just want to understand. Obviously, we're different. I mean, there's so many different factors.
Because that I don't know. I mean, for all I know, San Mateo could be working on a fee study right now and saying, "Oh my God, our fees are too low. They're 46." We don't know. We'd have to contact each one of them. Usually, I will talk to the person who does a lot of this research, because that's one of the things we do ask. When was the last time you updated the fees?
Mhm.
So we probably have that someplace.
Okay, yeah, because I think it'd be good to know when was the last time that, yeah. I think I have another question. If we were to approve the fees that we have on hand, but yet carve out the hotel fees, is that another option for us? I think, I know we have some friendly amendments on the table. I just want to understand process-wise for staff, how does that look, or is that something we need to approve as a whole bundle today?
In terms of how staff would approach it, it makes no difference to us whether you approve the residential, commercial, office, industrial, institutional, all those fees as proposed, and have a phase-in with hotel. We would just implement that into the master fee schedule. For that one item on hotel, we would just track it for those, let's say, 3 years of a phase-in, and our master fee schedule would adjust based on that. Once it's phased in, then we would use the CCCI and just increase it annually with all the other development impact fees. That would be the proposal. So we could separate it and treat that differently. It doesn't change anything with respect to the other development impact fees.
Okay, I think if I may, Vice Mayor, I think my friendly amendment was to provide a phase-in. I think what it would be, my friendly amendment would look at removing the hotel item until we get the further information that we need, and then approve the the updated fees for hotel at a further meeting, if you accept that.
Yeah, I accept it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
If I may, through the chair.
Yeah.
So currently with the friendly amendments and the proposal that's on the table, so if you were to approve the current fees as updated, the current fee as we charge a development impact fee for hotels would remain. Is that correct? Because there would not be an update on the fees.
Correct.
It would remain until we approve it at a meeting in the future. I would hope that
The current fee, the $2.50 per square foot, as is currently in our current fees for all non-residential. Yep.
Yeah.
And if I may, through the chair again, perhaps to just make it cleaner, Vice Mayor, you might want to just withdraw the motion and remake a whole new motion.
Okay, I withdraw the motion
Okay.
and make a new motion with the presented new motion.
Okay, I think I understand. I'll clarify that. So then it's a motion to approve the item with the exception of the hotel impact fees, so that we can discuss that and approve it at a later date, right?
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'll second that.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Ms. Perano,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you again.
Join my style. Like your town.
Thank you. We are now moving on to item number 11, amendment to the city's purchasing ordinance and
thank you.
adoption of purchasing policy. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Item number 11 is a public hearing regarding updating the city's purchasing ordinance as well as adopting the purchasing policy. The purchasing ordinance has not been updated since 2013, a little bit better than 1999, but also has not been looked at in roughly 11 years. If approved this evening, the update to the purchasing policy would increase the limits at all purchasing levels. Whereas now staff are required to have a purchase order for any item $6,000 and above, the new limit would be $15,000. The dollar amount for a purchase to be considered by the City Council will increase from $75,000 today to $150,000. In looking at neighboring cities and fiscal year 2025 general fund budgets, Daly City is currently at a low limit for City Council authority at the same level as the City of San Bruno, while Daly City maintains a general fund budget twice theirs. If approved for a higher council authority of $150,000, Daly City would be moving in line with the City of South San Francisco. Staff recommends updating the purchasing ordinance and adopting the proposed purchasing policy. Staff is also available to provide any additional information desired. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, are there any questions from my colleagues? Councilmember Sylvester.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry, Mr. Nevin and Ms. Halber. I'm searching all around for my phone for a calculator because I start doing some calculations, but I'm going to ask Mr. Nevin. So can you tell me current, like say Daly City is 75 and Redwood City at 100, what percentage of the budget is that amount? So say, for instance, 126 million with a $75,000 budget. So I guess if you divide 75,000 by 126 million, that will give you a percentage.
It would be 0.005%.
That's currently?
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Can we do the same with Redwood City? 100,000 divided by 143 million?
That would be 0.07.
Okay. and San Mateo, they're a little bit higher. So 100,000 divided by 169 million.
That would be 0.06%.
0.06.
Yes.
Okay. So if we were to take 0.06, excuse me, and multiply 126 million by 0.06. $126 million times 0.06.
That would be $74,556.21.
All right. How often will you be coming to council requesting an increase in purchasing authority?
The recommendation is that we would be changing the purchasing ordinance, which really the main number that is being changed is council authority, $150,000. And we would have by resolution that, that could, underneath that council authority limit, that could be changed by the city manager and the director of finance. However, in looking at the current levels, we're really only looking to increase the limits as stated in here. I don't see any reason why we would need to come back unless years down the line, it makes more sense to have $200,000 as a limit to bring to council. It's just, again, it's looking at the slide as, over 11 years, just by not having it change in the past 11 years, we've had just CPI of, 34.5% or so. So the limit of what should be brought, the limit of what requires a purchase order should really be looked at every so often, just so that we do save some staff time by not having to have a purchase order for something that's $6,200. So that would be a help to efficiency and staff time.
Well, believe me, Mr. Nevin, I know. I definitely understand, and I hate to be in hindrance. You know what? I can't exceed that, and I have to get approval from the council. What I'm looking at is similar to the last issue we looked at, ACC. So you don't have to come before council each time when you feel the need. But if we create an ordinance that say the potential budget, whatever the potential budget is of Daly City, purchasing authority would be limited to no more than 0.09%. Ms. Halber, would you kindly take 126,000 and multiply that by 0.09%? Then you just don't have to keep coming back. I'm trying to get you to that 150. That's probably going to come out to about 95,000.
So that would be
Oh, my goodness.
$113,400.
All right. Well, I just wanted to put that thought out there. I could have been working on my calculator and come up with all sorts of ways, but I'm trying to make it easier for our city to, to work. and not be hindered by minimum, which you have to increase and you need more. So
0.12%.
0.12%. See, I was thinking in my head, so we're moving up. So with that being at, if we were to approve 150,000 based upon our budget, that comes out to 0.12%.
Correct.
Would you be happy with 0.10? If we create an ordinance that says, based upon our budget, your purchasing authority for department head shall, and total should not exceed 0.10%.
Of
You know,
course,
better
that
have a
would-
piece of the pie than no pie at all.
Of course, of course.
You'd be happy with that.
Yes.
Okay, my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Looking at this item, I see why we need to look at the increase over the CPI index. It looks very clear here on why, and I think looking at the future, revisiting it, but I think given the fact that the CPI index is 34.6%, we're giving ourselves a cushion already, understanding that we're not, the levels that we're approving are at 50, 60, 40, 50, and 50, right? And if we're to look at the date today, the CPI index is 34.6. So even with if we were to move forward with this, we're giving ourselves a cushion as CPI index usually increases and does not decrease. So, yeah. And if it does allow for, us to have business done more expediently, then I think that's important. Yeah. Is there any?
I
other
just
com-
had a quick question.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I was just trying, Tim, could you tell me, and listening to the conversation back and forth, the increase that you're asking for is 0.12 or 12, right? 0.12%? That's what we're asked, that's what it calculates out to be?
That would be the $150,000 council authority.
Okay.
Divided by the general fund budget for this fiscal year, 2025.
Okay, and then what would the 0.10% be?
0.10, that's probably 126,000. That's probably 100, well, you can answer it, Mr. Nevins, 126,000.
126,000. So with that methodology, as we approve general fund budgets each year, we can just use that number, and that would adjust the council authority limit.
And subsequently, the percentages will change based upon the departments here, based upon the ratios.
Correct. We'd have to go down the.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember DiGiovanni.
Just want to say that I thank you, Councilmember. I knew he was doing the numbers, so I was thinking, okay, he's going to bring out the numbers. Yeah, I have to agree when you do like the point, when I wrote down exactly what you were saying and what Mr. Nevin was saying, you guys are on the same page. I agree. I agree with Councilmember Sylvester as well.
I'm going to add another column to my slide. Has that calculation in there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
We want to make things efficient.
Okay, seeing no other questions, I move this item. Do I have a second?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
we just need to open a public
Oh,
hearing.
okay. Motion to open public hearing?
So moved.
I have a first, do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any public comments for this item? Seeing none, motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. And now at this point, I move this item. Do I have a second?
It'd be for motion for city attorney for the ordinance.
Please. Motion, city attorney.
To read by title only. Is there a
Yes, motion to read. Do I have a second?
Second.
just a voice vote is fine.
All in favor, say aye. All in favor, say aye.
May have discussion if you like.
You have further discussion, council member?
Yeah. Again, I'd like to reiterate that coming in the future, to set it at $150,000 now is, they may come before us again in the future, 3 years, 4 years, but putting a certain percentage on whatever our proposed budget would be much easier. If by chance our budget goes down, subsequently having this percentage in place, that purchasing authority would go down. To give an example, I recall a few years ago where our budget was approximately $86,000. So if we were to multiply, 86 million, if we were to multiply 86 million by 0.10, that 150 would change as so as it should to down to 86 million.
Right.
I think this provides a cushion and a way to, so that you don't have to keep coming back. So just my comments. But there's a motion on the floor.
Thank you.
If I may, through the chair, with that comment in mind, this is a first reading, would we like to have some language that reflects that percentage as part of the adoption?
We could do that.
Okay.
I mean, this is the first reading,
This is the
right?
first
So-
reading, okay.
Right.
With that amendment in language for the second reading, this is a first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Daly City, repealing and replacing Chapter 3.12 of the Daly City Municipal Code regarding purchasing. Council member may introduce the ordinance.
Introduce the ordinance. Happy to introduce.
Okay. And we also do have a resolution for the purchasing policy as well.
Motion to approve resolution for purchasing policy. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, may we have roll call, please?
Before I do roll call, if I could clarify who is introducing which council member?
Mayor Manalo.
Pardon?
Mayor Manalo.
Thank you. Ms. DiGiovanni?
Aye.
Dr. Rod?
Aye.
Ms. Perano?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye, thank you very much. Thank you so much for that extensive conversation and a lot of things that we're making sure that we do ahead, and so that we are not having to come back to council. And so we are now moving on to item number 12. And if we can please have Leilani come up.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Before you this evening is a request to adopt the Ramaytush Ohlone Land Acknowledgement. The Ramaytush Ohlone are the original peoples of the San Francisco Peninsula. The area comprising the city of Daly City was originally inhabited by the Arubari tribe, an independent tribe of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. Prior to the arrival of the Spanish in 1769, the Ramaytush Ohlone numbered approximately 1,500 persons and lived in 10 small tribal groups. By the end of the mission period, only a few families survived. The City Council acknowledges that the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples are not a mythical population of the past, but an integral and active community in the present Bay Area and Peninsula region and beyond, whose ongoing exclusion and invisibility threaten the greater American Indian community's inclusion and respect in the city of Daly City. It is important to acknowledge the truth of a land's history as a human right and demonstration of respect for the contributions and sacrifices of the ancestors that inhabit it and have cared for this land. The Association of Ramaytush Ohlone have actively worked to research, expand public awareness, and preserve Ohlone history and culture. One way a city can honor the original inhabitants of its land is by adopting a land acknowledgement statement, which is a formal statement that recognizes and respects American Indians as traditional stewards of this land and the enduring relationship that exists between American Indians and their traditional territories. On November 19, 2024, an ad hoc committee comprised of Mayor Manalo and Vice Mayor Dr. Roderick Dospik-Boal met with city staff to research the history of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples and draft the land acknowledgement statement. Following this meeting, staff worked with the Association of Ramaytush Ohlone to finalize the following land acknowledgement, which is intended to be read aloud at the start of each city council meeting that are open to the public. The statement would read, "The city of Daly City acknowledges that we are on the ancestral land of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. We recognize their enduring connection to this region and honor their history, culture, and contributions. As the indigenous protectors of this land, we affirm their sovereign rights as the original inhabitants of this land and pay respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. As the City Council proclaimed the month of November as National Native American Heritage Month, staff recommends that the City Council adopt the Ramaytush Ohlone Land Acknowledgement as a first step to acknowledge and honor the land, culture, wisdom, and contributions of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples throughout the Bay Area." Staff and Culture Director Greg Castro from the Association of the Ramaytush Ohlone are available to provide any additional information and answer questions.
Thank you so much, Leilani, for presenting today. You know, I want to thank Vice Mayor for sitting on the committee with me, but also I want this opportunity to Greg for you to come up. Thank you so much for your patience. We had so much business today, but I am so grateful for your presence and for being with us this evening with the City of Daly City.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, that was a scintillating discussion that we do, but I'm more than happy to wait and accept this honor and this privilege to be here on behalf of my people. And I think that I would say that I appreciate the effort. You know, land acknowledgements have been something that have only been relatively new in North America. Over the last maybe 7 years, they've become quite popular. But we appreciate any effort that makes it more than just performative, that really acknowledges the history of a place and our place in that history. And acknowledging our long existence here. And it has practical, effects as well because of, for instance, state laws that require the safeguarding of that heritage, having us as part of that process is really important, and land acknowledgements contribute to that. So we really appreciate this opportunity and welcome any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Here in Daly City, we want to do this land acknowledgement. I had brought it up to our council at our last meeting, and I know that there are other jurisdictions that have. And so it is our honor that you have worked with us and our staff to be able to have something that we could partner with and ensure that you have looked over the land acknowledgement so that we do this land acknowledgement at our meeting and that we have your cooperation in that regard. I think that's something we wanted to make sure to do. So thank you so much. And I think also when you talk about it not only being performative, now that we have built this partnership with you, if there's any ways in the future where we can work with one another in other areas to highlight the Ohlone culture, Ramaytush, and to be able to do that within the city of Daly City, we also welcome that, because we also know that the land acknowledgement is a first step, but there's also ways for us to honor and support.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Councilmember Prano.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor, for doing this. It's so wonderful. I would just ask if there's possibility to perhaps have you meet or speak with the Arts and Culture Commission and perhaps share art, music, or in the rotunda or something special. I haven't asked them, and I just thought it would be so nice to be able to share history, be it artwork or photos or, just the culture, so that we can see it. And what a nice way it would be to be able to have it here and to make it available for the people of Daly City. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Well, thank you for coming into our council meeting. As a person that teaches ethnic studies, I see the importance of the land acknowledgement, and to piggyback off what Mayor Manalo is saying, that the land acknowledgement is just a starting point, and I hope and encourage those that are listening in and those that are attendants to really dig deep in terms of the impact. And as a person that teaches about Filipino American history and seeing the parallels of colonialism that has affected both of our peoples, I think it's long overdue, and that there was a time where the name Daly City, there was no designation for Daly City, but it was the land of the Ramaytush Ohlone. And I guess my question too is, I believe I know there were certain land acknowledgements in San Mateo County where people would acknowledge the Mwekma people as well.
Yes.
Would that be included in Daly City?
No.
And
No.
Okay.
And I can elaborate if you like.
Okay, yeah, if you can.
Well, I'll try to make this shorter than the previous discussion of budget. One must understand that the way that Native people are identified these days in California, and not just Ohlone country, but a lot of California, is by linguistic group. And that was not our way of identifying ourselves. But that's when Europeans came, as they went through the state and encountered different people, they put that label of these people speak this language. And over the 250 years of colonization here, that's stuck. And so what Native people have done, and especially part of that process of colonization, was to split us up, and we were no longer able to exist in those autonomous political communities that we had, villages. And through colonization and then missionization, the gold rush, people dispersed. Most of our people actually had to leave our homeland because it was dangerous here. So what most people have done is come together in survival mode. And they sometimes still use those designations because they're a convenience, right? If I identify as Totral, Salinan, Rumson, and Ramaytush Ohlone. Totral is the ancient name for my father's people, who are south of the Ohlone, in the middle of the state. And if I said Totral, almost nobody would know what that meant. Right. Some people that have some knowledge would know what Salinan meant. Same thing with Ohlone. If we were to, prior to this designation, few people knew about the Yoruba community that used to be here, local to this area. So those kinds of designations have been really confusing to people. When many years ago, there were not many visible Ohlone communities. We maintained our own culture, our own communities in many cases, and we're insular. Right? Because there was still the thought that we weren't, at least, if not, it was dangerous to be public, but, not be accepted. And so the few that were visible in the entire Bay Area were identified for the Bay Area, even though they weren't from this place. And in that case, that particular group is actually from the south end of the East Bay, in the Chocheño-speaking area of the Ohlone community. So Ramaytush is one of the other dialects, like Chocheño, like Tamian, like Mutsun. And that Ramaytush area is the San Francisco Peninsula. And the way most people identify nowadays is using that language designation, even though it wasn't our original way. And we sort of organized in that sense. So many of the groups that exist now tend to, but not all of them. And some still have this larger designation of the entire area, which, I would think would not be appropriate because they're not from here.
Well, I just want to say thank you for sharing your wisdom, and I would never have thought that we would ever get to this point as a council.
Neither did I. I've been doing this for 35 years. I thought maybe my grandkids would, but not me.
Right, and I just want to say thank you for giving us the permission, to work and serve in this community. And I'm indebted to you and to your peoples, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Giovanni.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge, I think that a few meetings ago when we first discussed Native American history, I don't know if you remember, I think when I was in conversation with Del Shambari from San Bruno Mountain, that we used to have a celebration with all of you at our Hillside Park, and I'd mentioned it to the city manager as well. And I appreciate you taking and caveat this, but I think that we could bring that back, because I know that when we saved the Daly City Dunes at that time, and we have the shell mounds over in that area, if we could partner with him again, and he said he's very much interested and has always been a part of, and I had mentioned to the city manager before, and continue that celebration. I think it was annually at Hillside Park. I wasn't sure, because I said one thing that's always stuck with me is that you're not recognized, and it's so frustrating for me. I've been to Washington, D.C. and have testified as well, along with the people, that you're not recognized. I want to tell my council on the Federal Registry. Out of all the Native Americans, I wanted people to know here and on this tape, and for my fellow council members, Vice Mayor especially, for what you teach. This is the one that needs to be recognized as well. And I don't know how we do it. It's a continual fight. And then it boggles me. They should be recognized on the Federal Registry, and hope we can move that needle to where someday that goal will be reached. But I think that if it's with your permission and your people, of course, out of deep respect, that if my council and the city manager had already mentioned it, that we maybe restart that, because you had all your people come, and it was a regular ceremony that they would have at our Daly City Dunes, of which we did save, and we preserved them at that time. And that's where the shell mounds are. And that's a deep history. And maybe you could give, like I know that our friend Dr. Rod, who is also a professor, gave, spoken word, which is a big Native thing that we know that's so important, that if you could give us that and with your people, I think that would be just a beautiful start to revive that. And I know that we all have your contact information. So, but from deep respect, and it's so important, not just 1 month, but that fight continues for the Federal Registry. And I want you to know that every single time it's time to sign it, I make sure that it's something that it's a fight that needs to keep going. And I know you're also familiar with Valerie Tuller as well, right? So I spoke with her as well. And we can all coalesce together and maybe bring that back to Hillside Park.
Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very humbled and grateful that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that we're able to do this.
Thank you. Councilmember Sylvester.
The analytical one.
I assume I'm going to have a bunch of questions.
Yeah, I basically don't have any questions, but basically a very strong comment. This has been long overdue, very long overdue. And if we don't keep providing the awareness, people will forget. There's a saying that I've heard, do as I say, but not as I do. Putting my stamp of approval on this resolution, I have seen where folks of the Ramaytush and Ohlone have appeared here before council to dispute something that was happening in Daly City. And it appeared to me that it fell on deaf ears while I supported it and wanted more information to verify. I just hope that, I wish that we had this before that time so that, wait a minute, we started our meeting with the acknowledgement, did you not forget? Well, hopefully from this day forward, we won't forget. I definitely won't forget. And just want to let you know, I believe in it, and I'm definitely here to support all of our people in Daly City. But you folks were here before me, so we need to remember that. So thank you so much, and I can't wait to get this going. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Deeply humbled that we were able to partner with you. It has been long overdue. And so when we did honor Native American History Month, it was just last month. We worked very quickly to do this because we knew it was long overdue. And so thank you for being with us today. This is definitely a step forward, and your granddaughters didn't have to be the ones to see this happen.
Yeah.
You're here with us, so
Yeah.
thank you. And with that, I am glad to move, adopt a Ramaytush Ohlone Land Acknowledgement Resolution, and I will give the second to my colleague who worked with this on the committee, to Vice Mayor Das Magwal, if he accepts.
I humbly accept.
Thank you. May we have a resolution roll call vote, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Humbly honored, yes.
Dr. Rod,
Yes.
Ms. Perano,
Yes.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Item number 13, appoint representative to the Board of Trustees of the San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Staff recommends that the City Council appoint a representative to serve either a 2-year term or a 4-year term to represent the Board of Trustees of the San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District. Councilmember Glenn Sylvester currently represents the City of Daly City on the San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District, and the current term expires on December 31, 2024. According to the California Health and Safety Code, Section 2020-2030, which dictates appointments to vector control district boards, the city council of each city or town may appoint one person to the board of trustees, and per SB 1588, a city council member may be appointed to the board of trustees. The term of office for a member of the Board of Trustees shall be a term of either 2 or 4 years at the discretion of the appointing authority. A 2-year term would run from January 1, 2025 through December 31, 2026, and a 4-year term would run January 1, 2025 through December 31, 2028. And terms of office will begin at noon on the first Monday in January. And staff is available to provide any additional information or answer questions.
Thank you so much. I think this is pretty straightforward, so I move to, approve Councilmember Glenn Sylvester for the continuance of a 4-year term.
Second.
Okay, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Ms. Perano,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo.
Aye. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Madam Mayor, if I may make a comment after the vote.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the motion. I humbly accept. I've been on the Mosquito Vector Control Board for, I think, almost 6 years. And it's not easy, and especially since I'm not an expert in Aedes aegypti or West Nile or what have you, but I've learned a lot in the years, developed relationships, and also the resources. And what's very important to me is bringing those resources to Daly City. And what I mean by resources, I'm looking at the equity aspect of it. Well, how come this city gets this and Daly City doesn't? And we were once one of the largest populations, but folks here in Daly City pays taxes as well. I pride myself in contacting our city manager on Senate Bill 553, but he probably already knew about it, and that's the workplace violence. And as a result, we started to move forward, and if I'm not mistaken, this entire council will have to take a training course in workplace violence, and also the city has to develop a forum in case something like that should happen. I'm also happy in the fact that we brought to the city an investment instrument called Cal Class. The city looked into it, and yet we did come up with something not, well, it is better, but at least we've diversified is the word. So a lot of things happen at Mosquito Vector, and I'm deeply humbled to remain a part and to continue the job. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester. Thank you for your service and your continued service on that and bringing forth the workplace violence training. I think it's so important. We need to feel safe in our workplaces. That's something that is huge, and I appreciate you bringing that forth to our staff and also our council. I think that was established in 2023, right? I just wish it was established prior to 2023, that training.
Yeah, you're right, and good.
So that it could have been preventive measures.
That's right.
Exactly. And so now, moving on to item number 14. Actually, no. Are there any appointments or for boards and commissions from my colleagues? 14. Okay, seeing none. Moving on to item number 14. The council committee reports. I want to thank once again for the record, Madam City Clerk, Vice Mayor Das Magwal, and myself met with staff, with City Manager Tom Piccolotti, and then also with Leilani, Assistant to the City Manager, on the land acknowledgement that we did approve today. I want to just say for us as a Daly City community to acknowledge that we are on land, that the Ohlone peoples have been on many generations before we have been here, is important. And we look forward to continuing to work with the community moving forward. And so, as a community that believes in equity and inclusion, we can't not only talk about this without acknowledging the land that we live on of the Ohlone people. And so, thank you. Did I miss anything, Vice Mayor, please?
No. Again, I want to thank staff, Tom, Leilani, Rose for pushing ahead with this land acknowledgement and vetting and getting feedback from the Ohlone people. And that was something that I'm not sure if the other cities in San Mateo County has something adopted, but I'm really appreciative that we have put something forth for our community.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other city council reports or council committee reports? Or council committee.
You want to go first, Glenn?
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Sylvester, then Vice Mayor.
All right, this is going to be very quick. Mosquito vector, we just had a meeting about 2 weeks ago, and two things I would like to report is West Nile virus. They're moving, well, it's the season is basically gone downhill, so now they're gearing up for tick season. So be aware of that, watch out for moisture, and be aware of ticks. The other issue is the investment instrument. I'm proud to report that the JPA has put money aside. They can only put out a certain amount. And they put that in Cal class. And as of last month, we've made $223,000. That's $250,000. And if I remind you, it's a 24-hour turnaround, and it's a much better instrument. I think it was paying 5.25%. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. Vice Mayor.
So I attended a couple of meetings. I'll start off with the CCAG meeting on November 14th. I sat in relief for Mayor Manalo. And so I just want to highlight a couple of points. One was a presentation by One Shoreline, which talked about resilience flood plan for specifically places, Brisbane, like Foster City, places that are vulnerable for flooding and communities that were created on top of landfill. And I think that was a very, very interesting presentation by One Shoreline, which talked about things like a flood warning system with online community participation. And knowing that we just went through a atmospheric river and we're going to be seeing one again, and our climate is changing, and they did a whole presentation on what One Shoreline is doing, what the communities are doing across the peninsula in terms of potential flooding because of climate change. Another thing I wanted to highlight is a strategic plan that was also presented, and the strategic plan was an agency's equity assessment and framework. So they looked at different ways how we looked at policy, regulatory changes affecting transportation, energy, storm fields. And right now they're in the process of developing its first strategic plan to cover the next 3 to 5 years. So so there was internal findings from those that work within CCAG, and they talked about having a unified vision to transform the county, climate and environment, equity, mode shift, so making investments in a robust multimodal transportation system, community engagement, performance measurements. And also they had established goals about what they want to see in the next 3 to 5 years. So one is looking at transportation, plan, fund, implement, maintain a robust multi-module transportation system, stormwater management, energy, environment, climate, land use and airport compatibility, finance and administration, and we accepted that strategic plan. I think one thing that stood out to me is that they're focusing on looking at studies about automotive vehicles. So looking at how the impact of using automatic vehicles in terms of like public transportation. I brought up the issue about labor, like what is this going to do to people that are working and folks that drive the buses, and they just wanted to see what the impact in terms of financial impact or ride share, or how many people would be engaged in riding automatic vehicles. And I believe that there's only a couple of communities that actually implement this, and I think it was like Phoenix and San Francisco. So it's something that San Mateo County is definitely looking at. The other meeting I went to was on November 21st for Peninsula Clean Energy. And so we are looking at implementing another strategic plan for the next 5 years from 2025 to 2030. So we were looking at, one was looking at policies, and the other phase is looking at long-term agency and department goals. And then phase 3 is looking at operational infrastructure needs. One of the main concerns is now that there's going to be a new administration that is coming up in our nation. I think one of the worries is looking at what we're doing here in the county and how we could work around the state to maintain our goals. You know, we have these goals that we want to get at least 0% greenhouse gas, and what are the things that are going to be affecting us in the very near future. What else did we do? Oh, we adopted, or let's see, we now have 3 customer service reps to that if you call in for PCE for any type of issues with any of the programs, there are actually people there that can actually take calls. I can't remember off the top of my head which they have different languages as well.
Yeah.
So they have that as well. We talked about energy procurement risks. So looking at market, counterpart, concentration, operational, regulatory, and volume. And then I think the big part of the meeting was looking at the transition of outgoing board members. So we had people that were there, and I know Councilmember Sylvester was part of the original crew that helped start PCE. So we celebrated, had cake for one of the founding members, Supervisor Dave Pine, who was the mastermind behind PCE.
Yep.
We also had former chair Portoto Valley's Jeff Alfs, person that I look up to and I've worked alongside with in developing a DEAI policy in PCE, who's Foster City Sam Hindi. We also have Half Moon Bay Harvey Rohrbeck, Pacifica Director, Pacifica Council Member Tiger Jazz Big Stick. Wow. And then one of our newest members to PCE, who is the mayor of Los Baños, is Paul Yanes. So we gave them the floor, we gave them time to speak, we gave them awards, and then we had cake and we adjourned in memory. So a really big shout out to Dave Pine for really have the insight and the energy and the synergy to put all this together, because I think what we're doing in PCE, we're doing some really groundbreaking and innovative work when it comes to CCAs across the state.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor, for your updates in regards to the committees you sit on. And I want to thank you for stepping into CCAG when I was here for the community engagement at the Small Business Commission. So
not a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I got a vice mayor. I want to move on to council committee reports. I want to share with the community that at the Jefferson Elementary School District regular meeting, it was also the last meeting for Manufo Anuai. It was her retirement on the school board. And then also, ceremony. I don't know if many of you are watching or probably have photographs when you took photos at their holiday decorations years ago or with Santa. But they did have an enchanted forest, really amazing decoration right by the fountain that we all know. But it's really, there's a penguin, a polar bear, just so many, I would say, when you talk about having experiences at the mall, it gives so many experiences for all community members and children and just in the holiday spirit, I would say. So that was really wonderful. And then I mentioned the Community Engagement Day at the Small Business Commission. It was really good to hear feedback from businesses and also understand the survey that is being put out from staff, which I think they are still receiving. So if you haven't taken that survey, your small business, please do so. But one area in which a small business owner mentioned was regards to Mercedes auto. So if we know where Chibog is, House of Sylvanias, that area right there, there's a lot of small businesses. There's a dentist, there's a hair salon, but a lot of them are worried about being renewing their lease because there have been some they heard some potential that Mercedes would like to expand and use the area in which all those there's three buildings there for parking. And so I think, for me, and I'm just going to let my colleagues know that I am looking at putting on the agenda a resolution that will support our small businesses, especially those in that area. These are mom and pop stores. Very similar in 2018, when I was first mayor, we passed a resolution that just indicated that Seton Hospital itself would remain the land use for hospital. I think it's very important for us to support our small businesses and indicate, I would push for this, and hopefully you all agree with that, is just indicate to keep the land use where it would be designated for business and not change it to parking. We know how important it is for our revenue to have our retail, restaurants, I say cars, but the cars that are going to be parked on there are not revenue for Daly City. It's going to be for another jurisdiction. And so I think this is moments where we can support our small businesses. And so I'm glad to have listened in to some of the feedback. And then also at Project Reed's annual trivia event in South San Francisco. Amazing. I saw Chella there. She was a great timer. But also so many people from northern San Mateo County really supporting, reading and literacy, which was really great, from all over North San Mateo County, which was really nice. And then, just to see everyone. I didn't join the trivia, but I definitely saw everyone join, and it's always great. It's a whole room filled in the South San Francisco Conference Center. And then on November 16, I went to Just Between Friends, an event at the Cow Palace, which was really helping families sell their slightly used toys, clothing at a very, very economical price for other families that need. I mean, we know that the cost of inflation has risen. And so it was really great to see our Daly City Fire, Daly City Police, our San Mateo Human Service Agency, the California Highway Patrol, and many services there as well. And what's really great about this program is it reaches out to local families that want to resell their items. They tag it for them, and then the proceeds go to the families, but also everything that is left over from not being sold, actually, it goes to Samaritan House. So it's literally just a whole ecosystem that really helps, families, especially, it's not easy during this time with everything going up. And then the U.S. Ilocano National Association, I want to thank them for inviting me to speak as one of their inspirational speakers, but an organization that has been around since the 1990, but really brings in community members from all over the United States. And then also joined Faith in Action and Bay Area because they had invited me to listen into their concerns. So it was really wonderful to hear from community members directly on some of their concerns that they brought forth. And then also was able to meet Sofranio Vasquez. If you watch The Voice, he's in the top 20. And so he was visiting in our area and is of Filipino descent. And so I haven't watched the recent one, but I know he was in the last show.
Yeah.
And he got on. He was, and so it's actually Michael Bublé, right? He's on Michael Bublé's team. Yeah. And then also joined APAPA San Francisco and the AAA organization honoring Asian American leaders across the Bay Area. That was a great event, providing commendations for those honorees, as well as the Jets performing. I was like, wait, who's the Jets? And then I heard their songs and realized that's all I heard growing up with my dad in 96.5. And so that was really a great surprise. And then I wanted to say congratulations to the winner of the basketball game with the police and fire. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend. I was tending to my little toddler who is not feeling good, but I heard from our recreation director who gave me the update and said that fire won with the buzzer. And so that's how I got the update in regards to that. I know that this coming, I think, December 2nd, we will be saying a thank you to the commissioners that volunteer their time.
Yeah.
Really, in all the different commissions that we have. So we look forward to that. And I know that there are, the holidays are ahead of us. And so just wishing everyone a good holiday. For those of you watching, we will be having our regular council meeting on December 9, but we'll be hosting our reorganization on the following Monday on December 16th. So hope to see you all there. Vice Mayor.
Good. Oh, Teresa.
I would just say that there were a number of those events that Mayor Manalo attended.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the one that stood out was the small business, because that gives them the forum to be able to come here and voice their concerns and know that people are going to listen. So that was the one I would say that I would point out. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Peronio.
Mayor.
Councilmember DJ.
Thank you. And through the chair, I would say that all of us were at that small business. And then another takeaway from that was being very proud of the commissioners that were there, because they were completely engaged. I liked the sincerity that came from them, that those are the people that we all supported to be on that commission. And I was very impressed that they listened because they knew what it was like, because they're small business owners. So anytime you're in the same type of position, then you have that great empathy to want to help them grow, or do they have issues, and the more comfortability. And I do hope that grows. And I think, we all shared that night. That was very impressive, and very proud of every single one of them. And then we were all at the ceremony, enchanted. It was just, Marie Villarosa had a vision, and then she said the designer is one who did it, but she's very humble. But it was actually her vision, I learned from her mom, that came to life with those penguins that the mayor talked about, with all of that. And it was definitely incredible, very moving. And then the mayor spoke about, I was actually glad and happy that I did attend that basketball game. And it was the PD and the firefighters. And yes, PD, they were ahead for a long time, almost to the end. And then the firefighters, obviously, they won by 1 point. But I think there's going to be a rematch, I'm sure, that would not go undone because it was just the first time. And it was for the Build a Dream that did the scholarships, right? So hats off to Gina, a War Memorial, the staff, and our 8-day-a-week director. I think there's 8 days a week now, according to the times I see her, was there like clockwork. So dedicated, and I think we're all getting into the game, and we can't pick sides because we love them both, and trying to sit in the middle. But I was impressed. I mean, both sides know how to play basketball. When you think Director Denise, it was pretty impressive. I was like, wow, they really know how to make some baskets over there, and they don't even have time to practice. This is incredible. So when we do it next time or whatever we do, I think that I would like to encourage everyone to come because they were really into it. So, and competitiveness between PD and fire, it was there. They brought it on, and I was totally impressed. And I think the other one that we all attended, I think there was, I think the mayor had mentioned whatever she had mentioned, that there was a lot that goes on, and appreciating that we are going to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And we, like she said, we will be back December the 9th with your families, and giving thanks to all our staff, directors, and everyone in our city, that they have a wonderful holiday take a time to be with their families. And because I know it's a short break for everyone, but a well-deserved break, just enough time for you to breathe, eat, and then come back. But so everybody will be back on the 9th, as the mayor had expressed. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other city council reports? Okay, thank you. I wanted to also invite everyone. I know there was actually 2 items on our agenda from 2 of our nonprofits in the community. The pickleball tournament with Pacific Islanders together on December 14th.
Good.
And then also on December 15, there is going to be an event to help support those affected in the Philippines in the typhoon called Handog. And so I just wanted to highlight those 2 events that are upcoming in the next couple of weeks or so. At this time, I will ask staff if they have any reports.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge specifically the crews that were out in the storms: police, fire, public works, streets, parks, maintenance as well, water, wastewater, and all the others that assisted either in dispatching and what have you. So we were able to get through the bomb cyclone, as it was stated. But we were so well rehearsed that it becomes natural. So when you see the crews out there, they're really doing what they do, and it's not a big surprise to them. So that's why we perform pretty well in those circumstances. But you're only as good as your last at bat. So there'll be another storm, and we'll be out there. We'll be prepared again. But I just wanted to bring that up. And then I also wanted to bring up that the Department of Recreation is doing the Build a Dream holiday tree lot November 30th through December 20th at Westlake Park. Sorry if I'm not on the mic. 111 Lake Merced Boulevard, and the hours are Monday through Friday, 4 to 8, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 9 to 6 p.m. And you can get a noble fir from 5 to 6 feet for $100, or a 6 to 7 footer for $120, and $10 for the stand. So for the public and for everyone out there watching, I think that's a good place to get your tree this year. So for a good cause. Thank you.
Yeah, hats off to staff.
Thank you so much for all the work, and to all the staff and your leadership, City Manager Piccolati. It shows a lot when you have a system around emergency services where you're able to prevent and make sure that, everything is being done, from the big storms that we had before and those learned lessons to having everything run pretty smoothly. I mean, I think I was definitely asked by NBC Bay Area, were there any big tragedies, and I got to report from you, city manager, that no. And I mean, that's really a good thing, right? It's a really good thing to know that. You know, a lot of preparedness has come along, but you're right. There might be another one, but it's great that you have the whole team together in that respect.
Yeah, 13 accidents that day.
And thank you for also the reminder to those that we could support buying a tree in our local community for a great cause. You know, so that's pretty awesome, right? Talk about supporting local, but goes back to our youth. So that's pretty great. So at this time, we will adjourn in memoriam of community members. And would you?
Yeah, I have one additional to the one that's on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. We lost a pillar in our Filipino American studies. This is an elder that I use a lot of his work in my classrooms, and his work has been used all throughout any institution that teaches Filipino American studies. His name is Peter Jamero. And Peter Jamero was born in 1930, passed away recently. And so I want to read a statement from the Filipino American National Historic Society. So the Filipino American National Historic Society is saddened to learn of the passing of Peter Jamero, better known as Uncle Pete, as he was known lovingly to so many of us was a trailblazer in the Filipino American community and beyond. He was a community leader, an educator, an author, a health advocate, a historian, a writer, and a true public servant. Peter was a FONS founding member, the first FONS national vice president in 1982, and a FONS national trustee at several points throughout the past 4 decades. He was committed to sharing the history of the bridge generation, the children before the end of 1945 to at least one Filipino parent who had immigrated to the United States earlier in the century. In his book, Growing Up Brown, Memoirs of a Filipino American, he shared his experience growing up as a child in the Filipino American farm worker camp in Livingston, California. In his second book, Vanishing Filipino Americans, The Bridge Generation, he described the stories of his peers, many who were the children of the Manongs and the Manangs, meaning the elder Filipinos, who formed a unique subculture and became leaders of a growing Filipino American community. In addition to his commitment to the Filipino American community, he dedicated his life to civil service in California and Washington. Some of his leadership positions included Assistant Secretary of the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services, Director of the Washington State Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, Director of the King County Department of Human Resources, Vice President of the United Way of King County, Executive Director of the San Francisco Human Rights Commission, Assistant Professor of Rehabilitation Medicine of the University of Washington, Branch Chief in the U.S. Department of Health, Education and Welfare in Washington, D.C., Executive Director of the Asian American Recovery Services in San Francisco, Executive Director of the Mental Health Association and the Boys and Girls Club in Merced, and Division Chief, Sacramento County Department of Social Welfare. Thank you, Uncle Pete, for all you've done for us. Your extraordinary legacy will last forever.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And now we'd like to honor and have a tribute for Esther Goche Tintianco, which is Allison Tintianco Cobales' mother. And we'd like to read together, Vice Mayor and I, a tribute written by her family. It is with heavy hearts that we share that Esther Goche Tintiango, at 82 years old, suddenly passed away on Sunday, November 17, 2024, in her sleep. Born on February 24th in 1942 in Pangao, Lipa City, province of Batangas, Philippines, to Agripina Mendoza Goche and Enrique Goche. She lived a humble yet joyful life with her siblings Marina, Sergio, Teodulo, Paz, Luz, and Cecilia. She was everything to us and cared deeply for so many people in our family and beyond. In 1968, courageously immigrating across the world with her husband, Alberto Memehi Zabanta Tintianco, she was the first in her family to come to the United States from the Philippines. The humble home that she built with her dad, known as a Gladstone, was a refuge to so many, and over the past 5 decades, over 40 people lived there. Hundreds have stayed there, and countless family and friends saw Gladstone as their home too. Even recently, all 9 of us were with the 2 dogs that lived together at a Gladstone during the pandemic, and Mom took care of all of us. Countless relatives and friends saw our mom as their second mom. She is dearly known as Mama Tir because she mothered not only her daughters but also the whole family, including her siblings, our dad's siblings, and all their children and grandchildren. She was able to care for her older sister, Ate Maring, and our grandmother, Inay, until their own transitions.
Mom will be reunited in heaven with her tatay, Enrique Gose, and her inay, Agripina Mendoza Gose, her uncle Roberto Mendoza, her sister Marina Ripoldo, and many of her family members who have already passed. She is deeply loved and will be greatly missed by her surviving husband, Alberto Tintianco, 2 daughters, Alison Tintianco Cabales and Adrian Tintianco Oria, their 2 husbands, Val Tintianco Cabales and Julius Oria, and her 3 grandchildren, Mahalaya, Eliana, and Aiden. Ate Esther, as many refer to as, is survived by her remaining siblings, Sergio Gose, Au Gose, his wife, Teodolo Gose, Estrellita Gose, Paz Macatancay, Paquito Macatancay, Luz Bonson, Alfredo Bonson, Cecilia Clemente, and all of her other children, grandchildren, and families. She is also survived by many cousins, relatives, godchildren, our large extended family, and our community of friends. Our mom was the reason why so many of us were able to build abundant and joyful lives here. She will be truly missed, remembered, and honored forever. Her love and legacy will live through our family and all those who had blessing of knowing her. And I just want to send a personal message to the family out there for thank you, Auntie, for adopting Arlene and I and our family within their family, and always making it a community up here. Because when I moved up here, I didn't have any family, and Allison's like my older sister, and I'll miss us talking about our prescription drugs that we take, and watching what you put in your oatmeal for breakfast, and we got you, and we got all the family, and we got the community with y'all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other agenda memory? Okay.
Oh, I forgot at this part 5 had. So with love, prayers, Alberto, Allison, Adrian, Val, Julius, Mahalaya, Eliana, and Aiden. So sorry about that.
Deepest condolences, and we hold you in our prayers. May we all have a moment of silence.